Chapter 1840. The auction continued. After an intense fight, the blue-dress woman from the Thunderquake Hall spent 3 million pills to obtain the Heavenly Thunder Dragon Tiger scripture. Following that, some immortal pills, talismans, Dharma treasures and other items were displayed one by one in the auction. Every single treasure was sold for a price of several million essence condensation pills. Many cultivators from the various major factions bid as well. However, it was obvious that the major factions were holding back as they waited for the final treasure, the Sualuo leaf. At this moment, another item was placed on the table. This item looked dull and lusterless, like a broken piece of a bronze mirror that had fallen off. Initially, Su Zimo did not feel much about this mirror. However, the moment this mirror was displayed, the bronze square cauldron in his sea of consciousness reacted. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly. Previously, the bronze square cauldron reacted as such when he found a broken sword in the storage bag of the commander of the wolf army. Later on, the bronze square cauldron smelted the broken sword directly. Immediately after, the divine dragon on the outer wall of the bronze square cauldron awakened and taught him an extremely powerful movement technique, the true dragon's 9 flashes. It was obvious that some Dharma treasures and weapons were required to repair the bronze square cauldron. However, the profound-grade Dharma treasures that Su Zimo had collected did not react at all when placed in the bronze square cauldron, regardless of their grade. He still did not know what kind of Dharma treasures and weapons were required to repair the bronze square cauldron. What's this? This is just a fragment. What's so special about it? Some of the cultivators below could not help but ask out of curiosity. The veiled woman smiled charmingly and said, "Everyone, please calm down and answer my question first. Do you know what's above the heaven immortal realm?" The crowd fell silent instantly. Many cultivators looked at each other in confusion. They only knew of the mystic immortals, earth immortals and heaven immortals. They had not even seen an earth immortal expert before, let alone a heaven immortal. "I heard that it's a perfected immortal?" Not long after, a voice sounded from the crowd. It was the young master of the Mystic Light sect. "That's right." The veiled woman nodded slightly and said, "Above the heaven immortal realm is the perfected immortal expert. Everyone, do you know what grade magic treasures true immortal experts use?" Everyone shook their heads and discussed in low voices. The profound light sect's young master suddenly had an idea and said loudly, "As we all know, profound immortals use profound grade magic treasures. Earth immortals use earth grade magic treasures. Heaven immortals use heaven-grade magic treasures, and so on. True immortals should use truth-grade magic treasures." "Ha!" A burst of laughter came from the high seats. "How ignorant!" Commander Liu and the others looked at the young master of the Profound Light sect with disdain, as if they were looking at an idiot. Being ridiculed like this in front of everyone, the Profound Light sect's young master's face flushed red, feeling like he had lost all face. But the other party was the commander of Dragon Lake City, so he didn't dare get angry. He could only lower his head and lightly grit his teeth, and he was vexed in his heart. The veiled woman said in a low voice, "The weapons used by true immortals are called psychic magic treasures, also known as spirit treasures." Psychic magic treasure. Su Zimo's heart stirred. Suddenly, he recalled that back in Tianhuang mainland, when Daiyu fought against many experts of the upper world, an ancient bell descended. Daiyu had once reprimanded that the person did not dare to descend with his true body, and merely used a psychic magic treasure to test the waters. In that case, the person who attacked should be a perfected immortal expert. The veiled woman continued. A psychic magic treasure means that it has spirituality and spirit consciousness within it. For Dharma treasures as such, their powers will increase tremendously, and they possess many unimaginable mysteries. As for this mirror, it's a spirit treasure shard. The other Dharma treasures were merely weapons and inanimate objects. However, a psychic magic treasure was a living object with a life of its own. Su Zimo's eyes lit up, and he suddenly came to a realization. The bronze square tripod should be a psychic magic treasure. That was because without Su Zimo's control, the tripod could refine weapons on its own to repair itself. Wasn't that a form of spirituality? Wasn't that the legendary psychic magic treasure? At the same time, Su Zimo vaguely guessed something. In order to repair the bronze square tripod, the weapon required had to be at least a psychic magic treasure. Back then, during his ascension, the expert who tried to kill him was clearly stronger than a perfected immortal. It was the immortal king that the mysterious woman mentioned. The bronze square tripod was able to repair one of its walls because it devoured an immortal king weapon. Given Su Zimo's current strength, there was no way he would have the chance to come into contact with an immortal king weapon. In fact, he had only obtained a shard of a psychic magic treasure. There was still a long way to go before he could repair the bronze square tripod completely. Even if it's a spirit treasure shard, it's completely useless. What can this shard be used for? It's definitely useless. If it was a true treasure, the exalted immortals in the city would have kept it a long time ago. After the veiled woman said that, the crowd below began discussing as well. The veiled woman smiled gently. No matter what, this is a shard of a psychic magic treasure. As for what mysteries it has, we can only leave it to the person who bought it to explore. How much is this? Someone asked. The starting bid for this spirit treasure shard is 1,000,000 essence condensation elixirs. The increment must not be less than 10,000, the veiled woman said. Everyone shook their heads. Nobody wanted to spend 1,000,000 essence condensation elixirs on a useless shard. After the veiled woman said that, nobody bid. I'll bid 1,000,000. Suddenly, a voice sounded from the crowd. Everyone turned towards the voice. It was the green-robed cultivator who wanted to fight with Dingyu. Suwon looked at Su Zimo in shock as well. She had not expected that Su Zimo would bid for such a seemingly useless spirit treasure shard after remaining silent for an entire night. While this spirit treasure shard might be useless in the hands of others, it was extremely useful to Su Zimo. This person is truly carefree. He's about to die and yet, he's still participating in the auction. That's right. He should think about how he's going to survive later. Many cultivators shook their heads and mocked. This fellow Taoist has bid 1,000,000. Is there anyone who wants to bid higher? The veiled woman surveyed the crowd and asked loudly. 1,001,000,000. Right then, Dingyu spoke up and looked at Su Zimo with a smile. Raising his head slightly, his gaze was filled with mockery and provocation. He did not want this spirit treasure shard at all. The reason why he spoke up now was because he wanted to raise the price intentionally. He was not going to raise it much, merely 10,000. Su Zimo's expression was unchanged as he said indifferently, 3,000,000. Whoosh! A commotion broke out in the crowd. Nobody expected that this seemingly inconspicuous green-robed cultivator would be able to produce 3,000,000 essence condensation elixirs. He was only a grade 5 mystic immortal. How could a grade 5 mystic immortal have so many essence condensation elixirs? End of chapter. Chapter 1841. Haha. Dingyu suddenly sneered and said, how can a stage 5 mystic immortal like you casually take out 3,000,000 essence condensation pills? I think you're deliberately causing trouble at this auction. Dingyu did not say anything and directly accused him of a crime. Suwon frowned slightly and hurriedly sent a voice transmission. Fellow Taoist Su, if you can't take out 3,000,000 essence condensation pills, it's better not to bid. Otherwise you'll get into trouble. The veiled woman on the high platform looked at Su Zimo and asked with a smile. Fellow Taoist, can you take out 3,000,000 essence condensation pills for me to take a look? Why should I? Shen Fei was a little indignant and asked. The others were also bidding just now. Why didn't you check the others? Ding Yu and the others roared with laughter with disdain. The veiled woman was extremely patient and explained. The other cultivators are mostly from the large factions on the Dragon Abyss planet, or have sufficient cultivation realms. But this fellow Taoist is only a stage 5 mystic immortal. 3,000,000 essence condensation pills is not a small number. Shen Fei wanted to argue, but Su Zimo raised his hand slightly and stopped him. Then, he threw a storage bag over and asked, take a look at these things. Are they worth 3,000,000 essence condensation pills? The veiled woman took the storage bag and scanned it with her spirit sense. Her delicate body trembled slightly, and a trace of surprise flashed through her eyes. There were more than 1,000 mystic immortal treasures in this storage bag. Although they were all low-grade mystic immortal treasures, a low-grade mystic immortal treasure, was worth about 10,000 essence condensation pills. In other words, the value of this storage bag was about 10 million essence condensation pills. The veiled woman's expression quickly returned to normal. She returned the storage bag to Su Zimo and said, "Fellow Taoist, please keep it well. You are indeed qualified to bid." Su Zimo had obtained more than 3,000 mystic immortal treasures from killing the Zuyanggu army. There was no need for him to take all of them out. He only took out 1,000 low-grade mystic immortal treasures and threw them over. The veiled woman's words shocked many cultivators. Even Su Wan turned around and looked deeply at Su Zimo. She realized that this green-clothed man seemed to be even more mysterious than she had imagined. The captains and exalted immortals sitting on the grandstands were not too bothered by the little episode that had taken place during the auction. However, Commander Yan Fei narrowed his eyes and secretly asked the veiled woman, "Li Ji, just now what's in his storage bag?" Li Ji hurriedly sent a voice transmission with her divine sense and replied, "There are 1,000 low-grade profound rank magic treasures in that storage pouch." Oh. Yan Bei looked at Su Zimo in the crowd. His eyes flickered as he pondered. 3 million going once. Is there anyone who wants to bid higher? The veiled woman looked around and asked loudly. The auction continued. Ding Yu didn't expect to return empty-handed. He couldn't help but feel annoyed. Just as he was about to continue raising the price, the guard behind him secretly transmitted a message. "Young master, you can't." "What is it?" Ding Yu frowned. The guard said, "The most important thing for us to come here is to get the Sala tree back. There's no need to waste core condensing pills on this. Furthermore, so what if that person buys it? In a while, that person will still die in the hands of young master. Isn't his storage bag still yours?" Ding Yu came to a realization and nodded secretly. The guard continued. "If young master raises the price too high and that person can't afford it and suddenly backs off, we'll be the ones at a disadvantage." "You're right." Ding Yu smiled and decided not to raise the price. The veiled woman shouted twice more, but there was still no one who raised the price. Only then did she announce that the numinous treasure fragment belonged to Su Zimo. After bidding for the fragment, someone sent it to Su Zimo directly. Su Zimo took out 300 low-grade profound rank magic treasures from his storage bag and placed them in a storage bag before handing it over. Low-grade profound rank magic treasures could be exchanged for core condensing pills easily in Dragon Lake City. "Everyone, the next treasure is the leaf of one of the 3 sacred trees of the Buddhist monasteries, the Sala tree." Immediately after, the veiled woman finally lifted the veil of the treasure. On a crystal-clear jade plate, there was a palm-sized leaf. The leaf was rather strange. It was a compound leaf and was made up of 7 leaves. Nobody knew how long the leaf had been floating for, but it was already slightly yellow. Even so, many cultivators could still sense that the heaven-earth essence chi around the leaf had turned richer. Everyone from the major factions were invigorated, and their gazes burned. Su Zimo noticed that and thought to himself, "By the looks of it, it's going to be difficult to bid for this Sala tree leaf." The veiled woman did not introduce further and said directly, "The starting bid for the Sala tree leaf is 10 million core condensing pills. Each increment must not be less than 100,000. F***CK. Shen Fei exclaimed and nearly bit his tongue. Gu Wenjun was shocked as well as she whispered, "The starting bid is that high." Yu Hao explained softly, "The Sala tree leaf can accelerate the growth of immortal herbs and bring benefits to the major factions, far more than 10 million core condensing pills. Furthermore, the longer it lasts, the greater the benefits." Su Wan nodded as well. "The only risk is that the Sala tree leaf is already slightly yellow. If we wait for it to wither completely, I'm afraid it won't have that effect anymore." Even so, the major factions scrambled for it and bid one after another. 11 million, 12 million, 15 million. As time passed by, the price of the Sala tree leaf increased. During this period of time, Su Wan even shouted a price once, but it was quickly suppressed by the other factions. Initially, the major factions bid quickly, and the price rose steadily. However, later on, when the price rose to 30 million core condensing pills, the major factions increased the price more slowly and cautiously. In the end, 5 of the 7 major factions withdrew from the competition. Mystic Een Mountain and Mystic Light Sect were the only ones left. Even if he exchanged all the remaining Mystic-grade Dharma treasures in Su Zimo's storage bag, he would have less than 30 million core condensing pills. He had already given up on competing for the solitary leaf for the time being. Sister Su, who do you think this leaf will go to in the end? The blue-dressed woman from the Thunderquake Hall asked. Suwon pondered and said, "It should be the Mystic Een Mountain." "What do you mean?" The blue-dressed woman was somewhat surprised. Suwon said, "This time, Ding Yu and Jiang Li from the Heavenfire Hall came together for this leaf. I'm guessing that these 2 factions have already joined forces. No matter how rich the Profound Light Sect is, it can't match the heritage of these 2 factions." As expected, not long after, when the price of the solitary leaf rose to 35 million core condensing pills, the Profound Light Sect withdrew. Ding Yu was overjoyed. Jiang Li from the Heavenfire Hall also heaved a sigh of relief. End of chapter. Chapter 1842. The Sualua leaf had already been decided and tonight's auction was over. After this, it was time for the cultivators to fight. Commander Yan Fei suddenly said from a seat high up in the palace, "Brother Lu, what do you mean by the bet you mentioned just now?" "Are you interested, Brother Yan?" Commander Lu chuckled and said, "There's no doubt that Ding Yu will kill this person. Let's bet on how many rounds Ding Yu will take to kill this person." In Commander Lu's heart, killing a Stage 5 Mystic Immortal was as easy as flipping his hand given Ding Yu's capabilities. 10 rounds were enough. However, out of caution, he pondered for a moment before saying slowly, "I'll bet that Ding Yu will kill this person in 20 rounds. Yan Fei smiled. "All right, since that's the case, I'll bet that this person can last for 50 rounds. Ha 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 ha." When he heard this, Commander Lu roared with laughter and said, "Brother Yan, you'll definitely lose this round. Looks like I'll have to take a look at your rainbow light sword technique." Yan Fei's expression was normal as he said, "If I lose, I'll naturally hand over the sword technique with both hands." "What will you do if you lose?" "You've coveted my Blazing Sea heavenly pattern for many years. If I lose, I'll lend it to you." Commander Lu waved his hand and was extremely confident. "All right." Yan Fei's eyes lit up. If he could cultivate the Blazing Sea heavenly pattern, his cultivation would most likely improve, and he might even have a chance to step into the 9th level of the Mystic Origin realm. Commander Lu stood up and said loudly, "There's no need to wait. Arrange for these subordinates to fight. The first round will be between Ding Yu and that person." With Commander Lu's status in Dragon Lake City, he could naturally change the arrangements as he pleased. Ding Yu was eager to give it a try, and had an excited expression. Commander Lu looked at Ding Yu with a dignified expression and said in a deep voice, "Ding Yu, I have a bet with someone and I'll only give you 20 rounds. You'd better not disappoint me." "Don't worry, Commander Lu. There's no need for 20 rounds. 3 rounds are enough." Ding Yu was in high spirits, and was filled with confidence as he said with cupped fists. Commander Lu was still worried and reminded, "Don't be careless and underestimate your opponent." "I'll follow Commander Lu's teachings." Ding Yu hurriedly bowed and said humbly. On the other side, Su Zimo, who was in the crowd, seemed to have sensed something. He frowned and turned to look at a higher seat. He saw a square-faced cultivator looking at him with a faint smile. It was Commander Yan Fei. In the palace, there was a sea of people, and it was very noisy. Others couldn't hear the bet between Yan Fei and Commander Lu, but Su Zimo heard it loud and clear. This Yan Fei seemed to know something, which was why he dared to make that bet with Commander Lu. The blue-robed woman from the Thunderclap Hall shook her head. She looked at Su Zimo and said, "You really shouldn't have accepted this battle. Do you know that unless one side dies in that arena, the battle will never end?" "What do you mean?" Yu Hao frowned and couldn't help but ask. Suwon explained, "There's a restrictive formation in the arena. Once both parties enter the arena, the formation will activate and form a cage-like barrier around them. Unless there's only one person alive in the arena, the formation barrier will always exist." "Oh," Su Zimo replied with a calm expression, as though he didn't care. The blue-robed woman looked at Su Zimo with pity in her eyes. "Haven't you realized the situation you're in?" At that time, It's useless even if you want to admit defeat. You won't be able to escape even if you want to. Su Zimo still had an indifferent expression. On the other hand, Duan Tianliang, who was beside him, grinned and shook his head with a sigh. Sigh, this is bad. Someone's going to die. A hint of disappointment flashed through the blue-robed woman's eyes. Initially, he admired Su Zimo's courage and insight back in Dragon Lake City. Now that he looked at it, this person was probably slow to react, and was not smart enough. Even the fatty who was a level 3 mystic immortal beside him sensed the danger. But this person was still oblivious. The blue-robed woman did not realize that Duan Tianliang was not referring to Su Zimo when he said someone's going to die. All of a sudden, Su Zimo frowned slightly as a feeling of being spied on rose in his heart. He sensed an intense hostility and killing intent. He turned his head slowly and looked in a direction in the crowd. Quite a few cultivators were pointing at him and discussing among themselves. Su Zimo's gaze circled around those cultivators and finally landed on a skinny old man. That skinny old man looked no different from the surrounding crowd. The only difference was that his cultivation realm was slightly higher. A level 7 mystic immortal. Su Zimo retracted his gaze without batting an eyelid. At the same time, a cold glint flashed through the skinny old man's eyes as he thought to himself, "This lad has sharp senses." That skinny old man was Guardian Shui, who had rushed over from Zuyinggu. At this moment, most of the cultivators in the palace were focused on Su Zimo and Dingyu. However, Su Zimo was able to sense the abnormality and sense the killing intent from him despite the gazes of so many people. That was terrifying. "Both of you, please enter the arena." The veiled woman looked at Dingyu and Su Zimo and said slowly. Dingyu could not wait any longer. With a leap, he arrived at the high platform in the middle of the palace and looked down at Su Zimo with a provocative expression. "Fellow Taoist Su, watch out," Su Wan whispered. Su Zimo nodded slightly and walked out of the crowd. In a flash, he landed on the high platform with a light and agile movement technique. The moment Su Zimo stepped onto the arena, a series of formation patterns lit up on the high platform, forming a barrier that was filled with formation patterns around the high platform. In the blink of an eye, the arena turned into an airtight cage. Of the two people in this cage, only one would be able to leave alive. Dingyu is going to make a killing this time round. That's right. That person's head is worth 100,000 essence formation elixirs. His storage bag even has a numinous treasure fragment that's worth 3 million essence formation elixirs. Once that person dies, everything will belong to Dingyu. The cultivators below the arena were discussing amongst themselves. When he heard those voices, Dingyu was even more delighted. He glared at Su Zimo with a ferocious gaze and smirked. "Lad, I'll let you witness my methods today. Mystic Yin technique." A strange glint shone in Dingyu's eyes as he waved his hands and conjured hand seals repeatedly, releasing the top immortal art of Mystic Yin Mountain. Even against a grade 5 mystic immortal, he did not hold back. He wanted to kill Su Zimo in the shortest time possible. Boom! All of a sudden, Su Zimo took a step forward. When his feet landed on the ground, the gigantic high platform trembled and dust fell. Whoosh! A green figure closed in on Dingyu rapidly. It was so fast that it tore through the air with a strange ear-piercing howl. The green figure arrived instantly. Dingyu's pupils constricted violently. A series of exclamations sounded from the crowd as well. Captain Lu's expression changed. His mind trembled as he stood up. Yan Fei's eyes lit up. It was way too fast. The burst of power was beyond everyone's expectations. Chapter 1843. Dingyu released his Mystic Yin Dharma, and a series of soft black qi appeared where Su Zimo was initially standing. With a chilling intent, it enveloped Su Zimo. However, Su Zimo was faster. By the time the soft black qi appeared, Su Zimo had already vanished from the spot and appeared before Dingyu. The two of them were inches apart. Dingyu's eyes were filled with deep panic and fear. To be precise, he was not a cultivator who ascended from the lower realm. He was born on the Dragon Abyss planet in the upper realm. Cultivators born in the upper realm had a strong cultivation foundation because they absorbed and refined heaven-earth essence qi. He He was already at Mystic Essence Realm level 6 at a young age. However, in terms of combat experience, he was far from comparable to Ascenders, who had fought their way through the lower realm and experienced countless dangers before finally transcending their tribulations. Among the many Ascenders, Su Zimo was the strongest after transcending the 49 heavenly tribulations. Su Zimo did not fight back with his moves at all. When he released his immortal arts, Su Zimo made use of his terrifying physical strength to counterattack instantly. Dingyu had never witnessed such a terrifying burst of strength. Against Su Zimo, who was inches away, his mind was in a mess, and he did not know how to defend. In a hurry, he reached out instinctively, wanting to reach for his storage bag and summon his Dharma treasure to defend. However, at this distance, Dingyu was already a dead man. Su Zimo had 100 ways to kill him on the spot. Su Zimo reached out and slapped Dingyu's forehead in a seemingly gentle manner. Piak! Dingyu shuddered and his gaze turned blank instantly. The light in his eyes dimmed rapidly. There was not a single scar on his forehead, but the power of this palm directly shattered his essence divinity into pieces. Thump! Dingyu's eyes were wide open. His eyes were lifeless as he fell straight down onto the ground. With a casual grab, Su Zimo removed the storage bag from Dingyu's waist and kept it in his bag. The palace fell into dead silence. All the cultivators were dumbfounded. Their faces were filled with shock and disbelief as they watched this scene unfold. It was as if everyone's throats were being strangled at this moment. How is this possible? The blue-dressed woman from the thunder-shaking hall was stunned. Her eyes were filled with disbelief as she muttered in a daze. Dingyu is actually dead? The young master of the Sky Scorpion stronghold chuckled in schadenfreude. Serves you right. Who asked him to be so arrogant and fight with me for the Sualua leaf? Young master. The Sualua leaf seems to have fallen into his hands. The guard behind him immediately reminded him in a low voice. Oh. The young master of Scorpio Citadel narrowed his eyes. The young masters of the other factions were also shocked, with different expressions on their faces. Seeing this, Commander Lu's expression turned ugly. He clenched his fists tightly. It was obvious that he was furious. He had not expected Dingyu to be such a disappointment. Not only did he fail to kill Su Zimo within 20 rounds, he was killed in a single palm strike instead. Yan Fei had only just snapped out of his stupor as well. He heaved a long sigh of relief and chuckled. Brother Lu, I've won. Actually, the reason why he dared to make that bet with Commander Lu was because he had received some news previously and deduced something. Commander Lu's gaze was dark. He did not say anything, and merely glared coldly at the green-robed cultivator in the arena. Following Dingyu's death, the formation barrier around the arena gradually dissipated as well. It was only at this moment that many cultivators snapped back to their senses. Instantly, a deafening commotion broke out within the palace. Dingyu is dead. Heavens, a grade 6 mystic immortal was killed by a grade 5 mystic immortal despite his cultivation realm. Furthermore, it was an instant kill. Dingyu was killed in a single palm strike, before he could even retaliate. That was too fast. What's the background of that person? Many cultivators speculated that even if they were in Dingyu's shoes, it would be difficult for them to dodge that sure kill attack if they were caught off guard. However, with Dingyu's death, that person is in big trouble and won't be able to survive. That's right. There's no way the cultivators of Mystic Een Mountain will let him off. Before their words were finished, many cultivators of Mystic Een Mountain had already lunged forward. Young master. Some of the cultivators charged towards Dingyu. Dingyu's guard, the grade 7 mystic immortal, had a cold expression and killing intent as he charged towards Su Zimo. Thief, pay with your life for our young master. What are you guys doing? Are you trying to bully him with numbers, just because you can't beat him? Yu Hao could not watch this any longer and hollered. He took out his gigantic axe from his storage bag and charged into the arena as well, blocking the grade 7 Mystic Een Immortal of Mystic Een Mountain. Xin Fei and Gu Wenjun attacked as well. To the three of them, Su Zimo was their savior and naturally, they would not allow him to be ganged up on like that. Duan Tianliang and Goldie knew that their cultivation realms were not high enough, and stood obediently in the crowd. Boom! 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 Dharma treasures collided, divine abilities fought, and immortal arts surged. In the blink of an eye, the entire palace fell into chaos. The surrounding cultivators retreated one after another, afraid that they would be involved and hurt themselves. Oh no! Su-won seemed to have thought of something as she frowned, and exclaimed softly. Duan Tianliang, on the other hand, looked relaxed and waved his hand. The people of Mystic Een Mountain are nothing. Don't worry, exalted immortal. I'm not worried about the people of Mystic Een Mountain. Su-won shook her head. Ding Yu's death means that Commander Lu just now has lost the bet. Fellow Taoist Su has offended Commander Lu of Dragon Lake City. If he finds an excuse to cause trouble, fellow Taoist Su's life will be in danger. Right then, a figure in armor barged into the palace. Judging by his attire, he was a city guard. Report. The city guard had just barged into the palace when he shouted and ran towards Commander Lu and Yanfei. What happened? Yanfei stood up and asked in a deep voice. The guard said hurriedly, There's an army of cultivators gathered outside the city. I can vaguely hear the howls of wolves. It should be one of the 4 great bandits, the Vicious Wolf Army. There are about thousands of them. What is the Vicious Wolf Army doing? Are they here to court death? Yanfei's expression turned cold. That bunch of bandits. We didn't eliminate them, and yet they came knocking on our door. Are they declaring war on our Dragon Lake City? I don't think so. The guard shook his head with a hesitant expression. Commander Lu's heart skipped a beat as he suddenly said, Brother Yan, you don't have to bother about this matter. The Vicious Wolf Army isn't here for us. It's him. Commander Lu pointed to Su Zimo below. When many cultivators heard that, they realized that the Vicious Wolf Army was clearly here for Su Zimo. Duan Tianliang was a little nervous as well, and his palms were sweating. The situation doesn't seem too good. Ding Yu only brought more than 10 guards with him this time round. If it was just these guards, they would not be able to cause much of a stir. However, the thousands of soldiers of the evil wolf army were all extremely ferocious and vicious people. 2K Reading Network. Chapter 1844. Su-won was still able to maintain her composure as she said in a low voice, Don't be impatient. This is Dragon Lake City. Not to mention a few thousand troops of the Vicious Wolf Army. Even if the entire army of the Vicious Wolf Army was gathered, they wouldn't dare enter the city. These guards and exalted immortals of Dragon Lake City aren't to be trifled with. Duan Tianliang's expression eased up slightly when he heard Su-won say this. On the other side, after the messenger guard brought this news, he didn't leave, and he had a hesitant expression as he repeatedly wanted to speak but stopped. What else is there speak? Commander Lu had a belly full of anger from losing the bet, and when he saw the messenger guard hesitating, his expression couldn't help but go cold as he berated the messenger guard. The messenger guard was terrified to the point his entire body trembled, and he hurriedly said, Commander Lu, I've just received news that originally Zhuang's Chen Xianyang led an army of 5,000 to Dragon Lake City, but an accident occurred on the way. The Sala leaf was something that all the great powers wanted to obtain, but at the auction this time, not a single Zhuang cultivator was seen, and this was truly slightly strange. When they heard this news, all the cultivators revealed expressions of sudden understanding, but in next to no time, an even greater doubt arose in the hearts of everyone. Zhuang was one of the 8 great powers, and Chen Xianyang was Zhuang's young master. What accident could have occurred when he led an army of 5,000? The messenger guard swallowed his saliva and said, I've received definite news that Zhuang's army of 5,000 was almost completely annihilated, and only a few hundred people survived. Zhuang's young master, Chen Xianyang, was heavily injured, and one of his arms was severed. When this news was spoken out, it was like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples, and it caused an uproar in the crowd. Which power had such ability to heavily injure Zhuang's army of 5,000? Which power had such courage to actually attack Zhuang's army? Moreover, they even heavily injured Chen Xianyang. It could be imagined that no matter which power did it, they'd already become enemies with Zhuang and become Zhuang's #1 enemy. Could it be the work of the 4 great bandits? As far as I know, 2 of the 4 great bandits, the Wolf Army and the Goshawk Gang, are very close to Zuyanggu. It shouldn't be them. However, I haven't heard that the remaining 2 bandits have any grudges with Zuyanggu. Everyone started discussing, but they still couldn't guess the result. Duan Tianliang had a strange look on his face and did not say a word. When Commander Lu heard this news, his expression was indifferent. Not to mention that only a few thousand people from Zuyanggu had died. Even if all the people from Zuyanggu had died, he wouldn't care. Once Zuyanggu was destroyed, a second new power would be born. The cycle of reincarnation would change again and again. But Dragon Lake City remained unchanged since time immemorial. And it stood towering from beginning to end. Commander Lu's gaze was still fixed on the green figure in the middle of the arena. He casually asked, "Oh, who did it?" According to this subordinate's understanding, the person in the lead is called Su Zimo, and he's precisely the person that the Wolf Army has a bounty on. The guard said in a deep voice. "What?" Commander Lu's heart skipped a beat as he exclaimed. At the side, Yan Fei's expression was normal, as though he wasn't surprised at all. When the crowd below heard that, there was a momentary silence as well. Thereafter, an even louder uproar broke out. To think that it's him. No wonder he dared to accept Ding Yu's challenge and killed him with a single palm strike. That person sure has guts. To think that he would dare to attack Zuyanggu. That person didn't just offend Zuyanggu. He offended the Wolf Army and Mystic Yin Mountain as well. The woman in blue from Thunderquake Hall was shocked. She could not help but look at the green-robed cultivator in the middle of the arena, once more with a hint of shock and curiosity in her eyes. Su Wan's eyes shone brightly as well. She had long noticed that Su Zimo was different from the rest. However, even she hadn't expected that person to have hidden his strength so deeply. The burly man behind Su Wan said in a low voice, "Miss, your eyes are sharp." Su Wan shook her head gently. "Uncle Lu, I've still underestimated him." The burly man addressed as Uncle Lu pondered for a moment before sending a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. "Miss, I know that you want to befriend him and recruit him. However, from the looks of it, that's too risky." Su Wan was silent. She could understand what Uncle Lu was implying. Indeed, Su Zimo had immense potential. That was the reason why she wanted to befriend Su Zimo, even though she knew that he was being hunted down by the Wolf Army. However, Su Zimo had offended 2 of the 8 major factions, Zuyanggu and Mystic Yin Mountain. At the same time, he was on bad terms with one of the 4 bandits, the Wolf Army. If they befriended or recruited this person, it would definitely bring trouble to Double Dragon Sect, and they would be implicated. At that time, Double Dragon Sect would have to face 3 top factions because of a single person. No matter how she looked at it, that wasn't a wise move. Su Wan sighed internally. No matter how willing she was emotionally, she was the daughter of the sect master of Double Dragon Sect, after all, and had to consider the many members of Double Dragon Sect. She could only follow her logic and give up on Su Zimo. On the other side, on a seat high up in the palace, Commander Lu's expression was dark as he turned to look at Yan Fei beside him and said slowly, "You knew about this long ago. That's the reason why you dared to make this bet with me." At that moment, Commander Lu gradually realized what was going on. Yan Fei's expression was uneasy as he said, "I did receive news that the Zuyanggu army was intercepted by a group of people and was completely wiped out. The leader was extremely young and had green robes and black hair. However, I don't know who he is." After pausing for a moment, Yan Fei continued, "However, Su Zimo once took out a storage bag in order to bid for that numinous treasure fragment. I asked and found out that there were 1,000 mystic-grade Dharma treasures in that storage bag." Commander Lu's expression was mocking as he played along with Yan Fei. How could an ordinary cultivator, a rank 5 mystic immortal, possess 1,000 mystic-grade Dharma treasures? Therefore, based on the information you received, you concluded that the green-robed, black-haired cultivator was Su Zimo. Yan Fei shook his head and chuckled. "There are many green-robed, black-haired cultivators. How could I conclude based on the information I received? I merely made a bet. If this person is the same person who intercepted Zuyanggu, he must have some tricks up his sleeves, and has a chance of withstanding 50 moves from Ding Yu." At this point, Yan Fei heaved a long sigh and continued, "However, Even I did not expect that this person would be able to kill Dingyu with a single palm strike. When he heard that, Commander Lu's heart was filled with rage that he had nowhere to vent. It could not be considered as Yan Fei setting him up. Firstly, he was the one who suggested the bet. Secondly, Yan Fei did not dare to conclude that Su Zimo was the one who intercepted the Zuyango army. That was a risk in itself. However, no matter what, he had suffered a huge setback today. The root of everything was the green-robed cultivator below. Commander Lu's gaze landed on Su Zimo once more with a chilling killing intent that sent chills down one's spine. He was prepared to strike. Chapter 1845. In just a short while, the dozen or so guards of the mysterious Yin Mountain were either dead or injured. Even Dingyu's personal guard, the level 7 mystic immortal, was beaten back by Yu Hao's giant axe until he spat out blood. Even if Su Zimo only had Yu Hao, Shen Fei, and Gu Wenjun by his side, they were still able to defeat the dozen or so guards of the mysterious Yin Mountain. In fact, Su Zimo's attacks were rather restrained. From the beginning to the end, he did not use any earth-shattering trump cards or secret techniques. Nor did he create such a shocking scene in the 100,000 mountains. Others might not be able to tell, but Duan Tianliang, who knew a little about Su Zimo's background, knew that Su Zimo was obviously holding back. There were two concerns in Su Zimo's heart. First, there were some exalted immortals watching in Dragon Lake City. He did not dare to reveal the bloodline of Qinglian's true body, for fear of being recognized. Of course, even if he did not use his bloodline, just the powerful physical body of Qinglian's true body was enough to suppress these guards of the mysterious Yin Mountain. The second concern was that Commander Lu, who was standing high above. Since the beginning of the battle, Commander Lu's gaze had been on him. His spirit perception could clearly sense the killing intent in Commander Lu's heart. This was a level 8 mystic immortal, 3 minor realms lower than him. Su Zimo did not dare to be careless. A level 8 mystic immortal had already surpassed him in terms of strength. Even if he used all his trump cards, he might not be able to defeat a level 8 mystic immortal. Moreover, this Commander Lu was a native immortal of the upper realm. He had cultivated for countless years and definitely knew many powerful immortal techniques. No one knew what trump cards he had. Therefore, although Su Zimo was fighting with the guards of the mysterious Yin Mountain, most of his attention was on Commander Lu. He knew that once Commander Lu attacked, it would definitely be a thunderous blow. When the news of that guard's Zuyango army being intercepted and almost completely wiped out spread, Su Zimo could clearly feel that Commander Lu's killing intent suddenly skyrocketed and became extremely intense. This person was going to attack. Su Zimo was shocked. Although his back was facing Commander Lu, at this moment, all the hair on his body stood on end. Hee. At this moment, a chuckle came from the seats. Yan Fei looked at the murderous Commander Lu and asked with a smile, "Brother Lu, why are you so angry? What are you trying to do?" "Murder." Commander Lu's tone was cold. He did not hide his intentions at all. As the Grand Commander of Dragon Lake City, not to mention annihilating a 5th-level mysterious immortal, even if he killed the leaders of the 8 great powers, no one would dare say anything. Yan Fei smiled and said softly, "Brother Lu, there's no need for that. We've been friends for so many years. It's just a small bet. Why do you have to lower yourself to the same level as a servant?" Commander Lu narrowed his eyes and turned to look at Yan Fei. He raised his eyebrows and asked, "Why? Do you want to protect him?" "No." Yan Fei shook his head and laughed. "He's just a servant. Why would I protect him? However, if you kill this person because of the bet between the two of us, it will not be good for Brother Lu's reputation. It will make it seem that Brother Lu is too petty." Commander Lu's expression sank as he grunted coldly. Yan Fei continued, "Actually, even if Brother Lu doesn't kill this person, he won't be able to live for long. Don't forget, he's offended Zuyangu, Dark Moon Mountain, and there's a few thousand troops of the Wolf Army outside the city. All of these 3 great powers want to kill him. How could a 5th-level mysterious immortal like him possibly survive?" Commander Lu's gaze flickered, and then he suddenly said with a low voice, "Men! Here." 4 guards of Dragon Lake City stood out right away. Commander Lu pointed at Su Zimo and said loudly, "Expel this person from Dragon Lake City." Yan Fei frowned and said, "Brother Lu." Commander Lu directly waved his hand and interrupted Yan Fei. And then he spoke with an expressionless face and an unkind tone. "What? Brother Yan, are you determined to go against me today?" Yan Fei hurriedly said, "Why do you say this, Brother Lu? But isn't expelling this person from the city for no reason or rhyme?" "How is it for no reason or rhyme?" Commander Lu said loudly, "This is the Eventide workshop. This person has no respect for the law and fought with others in the arena. Expelling him from the city is already being benevolent to him." Yan Fei went silent. Everyone was clearly aware that there were a few thousand troops of the Wolf Army outside the city, and all of them had red eyes as they waited for Su Zimo to leave the city. If Su Zimo was expelled from the city, he would probably be instantly torn into pieces. Commander Lu didn't intend to let Su Zimo off at all, and his actions were obviously to get someone else to do his dirty work. Su Zimo was only a 5th-level mysterious immortal after all, and he was neither related nor acquainted with Yan Fei. Yan Fei just now spoke out to help and stop Commander Lu only because Su Zimo had helped him win this bet after all. Moreover, he rather admired this person in the depths of his heart. But Commander Lu had already made up his mind, and there was truly no need to become enemies with Commander Lu because of this person. At the thought of this, Yan Fei sighed and stopped speaking. "Commander Yan, thank you for your help just now." Right at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded by Yan Fei's ears. Yan Fei was slightly stunned. That voice was a voice transmission from Su Zimo, thanking him. Just now, the conversation between him and Commander Lu could not be heard clearly in the noisy and chaotic palace. To think that this person's hearing was pretty good, and could even split his attention to hear their conversation in the middle of a battle. Yan Fei's expression didn't change, as he sent a voice transmission as well. "There's not much I can do. I can only help you up to this point, and ensure your safety in the city. It's enough." Su Zimo sent a voice transmission. He was very clear that if Yan Fei didn't speak out to stop him just now, it would definitely cause a chain reaction once Commander Lu made a move against him. He naturally wouldn't allow himself to be captured without a fight, and the situation would continue to escalate. Furthermore, there were many elite cultivators of Dragon Lake City behind Commander Lu. Once the situation went out of control, and the army in the city gathered, even he might not be able to leave Dragon Lake City alive, let alone Yu Hao, Duan Tianliang and the others. Yan Fei thought for a moment before continuing. "The situation you're facing is much more dangerous than you imagine. Cultivators can kill as they wish outside the city. You're not only facing the vicious wolf army. Don't forget that you took Ding Yu's storage bag earlier on, and there's a treasure, the Sala leaf inside. I wonder how many people from the factions in the palace are eyeing the storage bag in your hand." Su Zimo nodded. Yan Fei was not exaggerating. At this moment, Su Zimo could clearly sense that there were many cultivators in the surrounding crowd that revealed intense hostility towards him. However, because this was Dragon Lake City, it was not convenient for many cultivators to attack. Once they were outside the city, everyone would no longer have any reservations. At that time, who knew what kind of people would jump out? Commander Lu recognized this point as well, which was why he stopped and chose to chase Su Zimo out of Dragon Lake City. Yan Fei sighed in his heart and sent a voice transmission. "Once you're outside the city, you can only pray for yourself." He did not say it explicitly. Actually, in his opinion, once Su Zimo left the city, it would be a dead end. End of chapter. Chapter 1846. Get out of Dragon Lake City. The 4 Dragon Lake City guards arrived before Su Zimo with cold expressions and disdainful tones, as if they were chasing away an ant. Yu Hao clenched his fists tightly and was infuriated in his heart. Anyone could discern that Commander Lu's actions were obviously trying to get someone else to do his dirty work. Disregarding the law was just an excuse that Commander Lu casually found. Even if they weren't allowed to casually attack here, it was also Dark Moon Mountain's side that provoked first, and Su Zimo was only forced to counterattack. Su Zimo raised his hand slightly and stopped Yu Hao's argument. then glanced at the 4 Dragon Lake City guards, and smiled indifferently. Today, you guys drove me out of Dragon Lake City, but I'll return in the future. Dream on. Death is at hand and you still don't know it. The 4 city guards sneered. All of you stay in the city. There's no need to follow. Su Zimo ignored the 4 city guards and turned around to speak to Yu Hao's group of 3 instead. After that, he turned around and walked out of the palace with firm footsteps and a fearless expression. Big brother, what should we do? Gu Wenjun looked at Su Zimo's back as her eyes revealed deep worry and a struggling expression. She knew clearly as well. Once Su Zimo left this time, he would never return. Even if she followed, it would be of no use, and she would be torn into pieces by the countless wolf army. But Su Zimo was her savior after all. Could it be that she had to watch on helplessly as Su Zimo went to meet death alone now? Yu Hao took a deep breath as a wisp of resolution flashed past his eyes, and he said in a low voice, Brother Su, I'll accompany you. After that, Yu Hao turned around and said to Shen Fei and Gu Wenjun, Second brother, little sister, I'll leave annihilating Yang camp to you guys. After he finished speaking, Yu Hao chased after Su Zimo with large strides. Yu Hao knew that once he went, he would die in battle outside the city. But even then, he still wanted to fight side by side with Su Zimo. Su Zimo's footsteps stopped. Then he turned around and shook his head. You don't have to do this. Brother Su. Yu Hao smiled. You gave me this life of mine. If I hadn't met you, I would have died long ago. Today my brother is in trouble. How can I? Yu Hao shrink back in fear. Yu Hao's expression, but his tone was filled with lofty sentiments. Even though he knew that there was no chance of survival. Brother Su, wait for us. At this moment, Shen Fei and Yu Hao's Su Zimo. We are sworn brothers. How can we miss out on such a great battle? Shen Fei's Gu Wenjun also smiled and said, That's right. Since we came together, let's leave together today. Come. Su Zimo smiled as well, and patted Yu Hao on the shoulder. You guys are good. Right then, Su Wan sighed gently and cupped her fists towards Su Zimo with an apologetic expression, whispering, Fellow Taoist Su I. Given the circumstances, no matter how highly Su Wan thought of Su Zimo, she would not dare to go against Commander Liu and the pressure of the 3 factions to help Su Zimo. It's fine, I can understand. Su Zimo smiled gently. After a moment of silence, Su Zimo said, Fellow Taoist Su, can I ask you for a favor? What is it? Su Wan replied hurriedly. Su Zimo pointed to Yu Hao and the other 2 as well as Duan Tianliang, De Huang and Ning Zhao. I'll have to trouble you to take them in for the time being. Bring them along when we leave the city. Brother Su, what are you? Yu Hao frowned and wanted to argue. Su Zimo interrupted him with a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness, saying bluntly, Yu Hao, I'll be distracted if the 3 of you follow me out of the city. Given my capabilities, I have no worries when I'm alone. If I want to leave, I can leave at any time. Even the thousands of soldiers of the ferocious wolf army won't be able to stop me. If anyone else were to say something like that, they would definitely be mocked. However, when it came from Su Zimo, Yu Hao and the other 2 felt that it was only right. They had witnessed Su Zimo's capabilities before, and they knew that he was indeed terrifying. The apocalyptic scene in the 100,000 mountains felt like it was just yesterday. It was still extremely shocking. However, Yu Hao and the other 2 knew that the ferocious wolf army was prepared this time round, and would definitely be more terrifying than the Zuyango army. Furthermore, by then, Su Zimo might not only have to face the ferocious wolf army, but experts of other factions as well. Yu Hao was still hesitant. Su Zimo's voice sounded once more. If you guys want to leave the city, follow Su Wan and leave after ensuring your safety. Duan Tianliang and De Huang know my location. When the time comes, they'll naturally look for me. Duan Tianliang nodded hurriedly. Right from the beginning, he did not stand out to fight alongside Su Zimo. That was because he knew his limits. If he were to leave the city with Su Zimo, he would definitely become a burden to Su Zimo. It's settled then. Su Zimo added with a firm tone that left no room for doubt. Yu Hao and the other 2 exchanged glances, and could only nod. Hurry up, don't dawdle. Right then, A city guard could not help but sneer and berate when he saw Su Zimo standing in the crowd motionlessly. Lad, it's too late to be afraid now. Hurry up and leave. Don't force us to chase you out of the city. The other guard sneered as well. Su Zimo had an indifferent expression as he nodded to Su Wan before turning and leaving. Among the crowd, Zuying's guardian Xue secretly watched the entire process and nodded secretly. The development of the situation was similar to what he had expected. Even if he did not make a move, this Su Zimo would definitely be torn into pieces by the wolf army. Soon, under the watch of the 4 city guards, Su Zimo walked out of the underground palace and disappeared from everyone's sight. In the sky above the palace, Commander Lu had a complacent expression as he smiled lightly. Suddenly, he raised his voice and said, "Everyone, tonight is destined to be a sleepless night. Why don't we go to the city walls and watch a good show? That's how it should be. Let's go." Many Dragon Lake city guards laughed loudly. The numerous cultivators below and the young masters of the various major factions moved as well. Even if Commander Lu did not say that, they would still watch the battle from the city walls. After all, Su Zimo still had a Sualua leaf in his possession. That was a treasure that all the major factions coveted. The indignation in Commander Lu's heart lessened slightly. The reason why he lost the bet today was entirely because of Su Zimo. If he could see the scene of Su Zimo being torn into pieces by the wolf army, his mood would naturally be extremely comfortable. This feeling was even more satisfying than him personally making a move. Commander Lu looked at Yin Fei beside him and said with a smile, "Let's go, Brother Yen. Let's go take a look together. What you said makes sense. Why should I personally make a move against such an ant? Haha. I'm even afraid of dirtying the bottom of my shoes if I trample it to death." End of chapter. Chapter 1847. Dragon Lake City. Even though it was already late at night, the sides of the road were still brightly lit. Numerous cultivators gathered together and discussed, and they seemed to have transformed into a torrent that slowly gushed over from one end of the road. The chaotic sound of footsteps jolted awake many cultivators that were resting in Dragon Lake City. Some cultivators walked out from their houses successively and looked over. Subsequently, everyone saw a strange scene. At the front of this torrent of people was a black-haired young man in green clothes. He had handsome features, deep eyes, and a calm expression as he walked out of the city. The green-clothed young man looked to be slightly weak, and his entire body emitted a scholarly aura, as his footsteps were neither fast nor slow. The numerous cultivators behind him followed behind him in a neither fast nor slow manner as well. Strange, why is it so bustling in the middle of the night? It seems to be the group of people from the Eventide workshop. In the past, this group of people would disperse and return home after the auction ended. What are they going to do now? Who's that green-clothed cultivator? He seems to be called Su Zimo, and he's being pursued by the vicious wolf army with a bounty on his head. Fellow Taoist, what's going on? Someone couldn't restrain his curiosity, and when he saw a familiar person in the crowd, he moved forward and asked. In next to no time, this person found out about what had occurred in the Eventide workshop, and his spirits couldn't help but be greatly refreshed as he joined the crowd and intended to watch the battle on the city wall. The crowd grew larger and larger, and the commotion grew larger and larger. It wasn't long before more than half of the cultivators in Dragon Lake City were actually alarmed. Haha. A guard of Dragon Lake City looked at Su Zimo's figure and suddenly laughed with ridicule. Look at this person. He's still forcefully pretending to be calm. I reckon he's already terrified to death in his heart. Actually, there's no need to make such a big scene. Another guard puckered his lips slightly and said, "He's only a 5th-rank mysterious immortal. I reckon he'll be crushed by the vicious wolf army in the time of a few breaths, once he arrives outside the city. I hope he's able to hold on for a while longer under the slaughter of the vicious wolf army, and we'll be able to watch a little longer." Another person laughed. Who's leading the vicious wolf army this time? I heard it's the 3rd leader and 4th leader. TSK. They actually sent 2 leaders to deal with the level 5 mystic immortal. The vicious wolf army wants to kill him to establish their might. These 2 leaders are both ruthless characters. While they were discussing, Su Zimo had already reached the city gate. On the city wall, Commander Lu, Yan Fei, and the other experts with status in Dragon Lake City had already arrived a step ahead of time. Commander Lu stood on top and looked down at Su Zimo. Su Zimo looked up. The two men's gazes collided, opposing each other with equal harshness. Su Zimo's gaze didn't evade at all. The corners of Commander Lu's mouth curled up as a cruel look appeared in his eyes. He slowly raised his hand and said in a deep voice, "Open the city gates." Creak. Accompanied by an ear-piercing and heavy sound, the city gate slowly opened. The enormous city gate was like the bloody mouth of an ancient ferocious beast, waiting for Su Zimo to step into it. The moment the city gates open, many cultivators could smell the stench of blood. Outside the city gate, it was pitch black and extremely quiet. The quieter it was, the more unusual it was. Even the many cultivators standing behind Su Zimo felt a sense of oppression, as though black clouds were pressing down on the city, and a great army was pressing down on the border. Su Zimo looked at the pitch-black darkness outside the city gates, and suddenly smiled, before walking towards the city gates. On both sides of the city gates, there were even some guards of Dragon Lake City guarding. These guards were also aware of this matter, and crossed their arms as they looked at Su Zimo, who was walking over step by step. Some of them pursed their lips, some shook their heads, and some sneered. Of all the people you could offend, you actually offended Commander Lu. You're really tired of living. Isn't this pretty good? We were just feeling bored keeping watch here, and a good show came. We can watch the show too. The guards burst into laughter. Want to watch a show? Amidst the laughter of these guards, Su Zimo passed through the city gates. He passed by these guards and seemed to be muttering to himself as he said indifferently, "All right, I'll let you guys watch a great show today." The moment he said that, Su Zimo had already left Dragon Lake City. Is he talking to us? I'm not sure, he's probably been scared silly. The guards were bewildered and didn't think too much about it. They laughed lightly before slowly pushing the city gates closed completely and locking Su Zimo outside the city. The numerous cultivators that followed from within the city hurriedly ascended the city walls as well. Fortunately, Dragon Lake City was tall and majestic enough. The city walls were like a mountain range that extended out, and even if numerous cultivators stood on the city walls, they didn't feel crowded. Everyone looked down. They saw Su Zimo leave Dragon Lake City, and hadn't walked far when he stopped in his tracks. Ow! Suddenly, a miserable howl of wolves sounded out, and pierced through the silence of the night. Subsequently, the howls of wolves caused the ground to shake. Even though it was the boundless night, the numerous cultivators that stood on the city walls, that were 30 meters tall, were still able to see the billowing dust and smoke in the distance when looking down from high above. The expressions of many cultivators went grim as they gasped. Based on this momentum, the vicious wolf army ought to have come with more than a few thousand people. Not long after, in the darkness in front of him, a dense green light appeared. Those were the eyes of the black-scaled demon wolf. Behind these pairs of dark green wolf eyes, numerous enormous black-scaled fiend wolves appeared one after another with surging killing intent, and they formed an enormous semicircle that sealed off all of Su Zimo's paths of retreat. So many people, there's at least over 10,000 vicious wolf army, right? Waves of exclamations sounded out from the city walls. Yu Hao and the others clenched their fists tightly, their palms sweating, and their expressions were nervous. The situation before them was even more dangerous than they'd expected. After all, the combat strength of over 10,000 vicious wolf army wasn't limited to just over 10,000 people. This was because there were over 10,000 ferocious black-scaled demonic wolves beneath the feet of these 10,000 wolf army soldiers. These black-scaled fiend wolves could erupt with extremely terrifying lethality as well. Once the vicious wolf army swarmed over, not to mention a level 5 Mystic Immortal, even a level 6 or 7 Mystic Immortal would probably be trampled into meat paste. Su Wan frowned and said in a low voice, "There's no chance." This time, the vicious wolf army sent 2 leaders, the 3rd and 4th leaders. One of them is a body refiner, and his physical body is tempered. He has immense strength, and can fight against ferocious beasts. The other saber technique is strange and feminine, and it's impossible to guard against. As soon as Su Wan finished speaking, the vicious wolf army dispersed, and two figures walked out. The person on the left was tall and strong. He wore armor, and his exposed arms were thicker than an ordinary person's thighs. He held two huge four-edged golden hammers in his hands, and his aura was heavy. This person's eyes were wide open, and his face was ferocious. He was the third leader of the vicious wolf army. The person on the right was dressed in black, and a slender long saber hung diagonally from his waist. His expression was cold, and his gaze was as cold as a knife. This person was the fourth leader of the vicious wolf army. Seeing this scene, Commander Liu, who was on the city wall, glanced sideways and said leisurely, "Brother Yen, why don't we make another bet to see how long this person can live?" Ha 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 ha. Before he could finish speaking, Commander Liu had already laughed loudly. Yen Fei was silent. He only shook his head and sighed softly. He didn't expect that the bet between the two of them would cause this person to lose his life. Add more in a few days. End of chapter. Chapter 1848. Beneath Dragon Lake City, Su Zimo gazed at the black mass of the vicious wolf army before him, and his expression remained unchanged as he smiled and said, "All of you really think highly of me, to actually dispatch an army of over 10,000. Your Su Zimo, the third head of the vicious wolf army, revealed a ferocious glow as he asked loudly. Su Zimo's brows raised slightly as he replied with a question. "Who are you?" "Ha ha ha ha." The third head roared with laughter and said, "A rank 5 mystic immortal like you isn't worthy of knowing my name. Go ask the king of hell when you're dead." "Oh," Su Zimo said indifferently. "So it's a nameless scoundrel." "You." The third head glared with his eyes as he flew into a rage, and he urged the black-scaled devil wolf beneath him to charge forward and smash the top of Su Zimo's head into pieces. "Third brother." Right at this moment, the nearby fourth head frowned and said in a low voice, "There are many great figures in Dragon Lake City watching. It's only a rank 5 mystic immortal. Just leave it to the other brothers. There's no need for you to personally make a move and make a joke of yourself." Exactly. A wolf rider dashed out from within the army. He had a red face and a bald head, and his entire body was filled with strength as he said in a low voice, "Third head, there's no need to use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken. Wait for me to take his head and offer it to the two heads." Even though this bald cultivator was at the 5th level of the mystic origin realm, his combat strength was extremely strong, and he completely disregarded his life in battle like a madman. In the vicious wolf army, even some rank 6 mystic immortals weren't willing to enter into conflict with him. The third head exhaled and nodded. "All right, Baldy, I'll give you 10 breaths of time. I want him dead." "Understood." The Baldy replied loudly as he rode on the black-scaled devil wolf, and he slapped his storage pouch to withdraw an enormous wolf fang copper rod before charging towards Su Zimo. The cultivators that sent the message from Zuyingu only said that Su Zimo had appeared and led the cultivators to heavily injure the Zuyingu army in the Grand Myriad Mountains. The members of the vicious wolf army were utterly unaware of the exact situation in the Grand Myriad Mountains. They also didn't know that in that battle, Zuyingu's army suffered heavy losses, and almost all of them were caused by one person. If the two leaders of the vicious wolf army knew about this, and knew about the scene that occurred in the Eventide workshop earlier, they definitely wouldn't have only dispatched a single level 5 mysterious immortal. The Baldy was extremely confident. Who knew how many 5th stage mystic immortals he had killed during the battle that brought him fame all those years ago? He'd even risked his life to surmount a realm of cultivation and kill a 6th level mystic immortal. From then on, the Baldy became famous in the wolf army. This Su Zimo in front of him looked so weak that he could not even stand a gust of wind. He must be proficient in some immortal spells, and had a weak physical body. As long as he could get close to him, 3 rounds would be enough. Feeling Baldy's intentions, the black-scaled demon wolf beneath him roared once more. Blood chi surged, its 4 limbs exerted strength, and its speed increased once more. In the blink of an eye, Baldy rode the black-scaled demon wolf and rushed in front of Su Zimo. During the entire process, Su Zimo did not react at all. He just stood there motionless, looking at the baldy who was charging over aggressively. There was not even a ripple in his eyes. F***ck, this person has been scared silly. The third master scolded with a smile. There was no need for Baldy to make a move. Just the accelerated charge of the black-scaled demon wolf was enough to break this person's bones and kill him on the spot. On the city wall. Even if Yu Hao, Duan Tianliang, and the others had seen Su Zimo's methods, they could vaguely determine that this person could not threaten Su Zimo. However, their palms were still sweating for Su Zimo. Everyone on the city wall could clearly see that the tall and ferocious black-scaled demon wolf was extremely close to Su Zimo. The latter's black hair was already fluttering. However, Su Zimo was still motionless. Just as the black-scaled demon wolf's bloody mouth was about to make contact with Su Zimo's cheek, Su Zimo suddenly strode forward and leaped up, bending his knee forward. At that moment, Su Zimo's figure was extremely relaxed. It was as though an illusion appeared before the eyes of many cultivators. The green-robed cultivator disappeared and was replaced by a galloping divine steed. Bang! The black-scaled demon wolf and Su Zimo collided heavily. The two of them seemed to be motionless in midair. Compared to the massive figure of the black-scaled demon wolf, Su Zimo looked extremely small. However, in the next moment, under countless gazes, the massive body of the black-scaled demon wolf exploded, turning into countless pieces of flesh and blood. A blood mist filled the air, and the stench of blood filled the air. Psst! Seeing this scene, the sound of cold air being sucked in came from the evil wolf army. The black-scaled demon wolf was a demon beast, and was born with a strong physique. Furthermore, it was protected by scales and was invulnerable. To think that it would be smashed into pieces by a seemingly weak cultivator and die on the spot. As for the bald man on the back of the black-scaled demon wolf, he had a shocked expression. He had not expected this to happen, and could not control his body, falling forward from midair. All of a sudden, his body paused and he came to a standstill. Instinctively, the bald man looked down. He saw that there was an additional fair hand around his ankle. It was like an iron hoop, locking his ankle in place. Ah! Suddenly the bald man screamed. This shrill scream was accompanied by the horrifying sound of bones cracking. His ankle was crushed by that person's palm. The bald man nearly fainted from a headache. Before he could react, he felt that he had lost control of his body, and the world in front of him was spinning. Boom! Su Zimo grabbed the bald man's ankle and swung him in a huge semicircle in midair before slamming him heavily on the ground, creating a human-shaped crater. The bald man's tendons and bones were broken, and his organs were shattered. There was no way he could survive. On the city walls, many cultivators felt their teeth ache. At this moment, the methods Su Zimo displayed were much more terrifying than what he displayed in Tenebrous Night Workshop. Ferocious, violent, clean and neat. Throughout the entire process, from Su Zimo's attack to the bald man's death, he did not make any unnecessary movements. It was smooth as flowing water. Although this exchange took a long time to describe, the moment the two of them clashed, life and death were determined. The smile on Third Master's face had yet to dissipate as his expression froze. Fourth Master narrowed his eyes, and a cold glint flashed through his long and narrow eyes. Su Zimo looked at the wolf army not far away and said indifferently, "There's no need to send such characters to their deaths." "How arrogant! Arrogant bastard, I'll kill you." This time round, before the two masters could give the order, more than 10 wolf riders in the crowd could not hold back and charged toward Su Zimo. Humph! Su Zimo harumphed coldly and stomped his foot on the ground. There was a loud boom and the entire ground trembled. The bald man's wolf fang copper rod bounced up and landed in Su Zimo's hands. Immediately after, he transformed into a streak of green light and charged into the crowd. Raising his wolf fang copper rod, he swung it left and right in a wide-open manner. Bang! 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 Blood splattered everywhere on the battlefield. One after another, figures were sent flying by the wolf fang copper rod. By the time they landed on the ground, there were already many bloody holes on their bodies with blood gushing out in an incomparably tragic manner. In the blink of an eye, the dozen-odd wolf soldiers were in a complete mess and were in chaos. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 1849. The destructive power of the Wolf Fang copper rod was extremely great. In the hands of Su Zimo, it released an extremely terrifying lethality. Even with the powerful bodies of the black-scaled fiend wolves, they would have a few shocking bloody holes after being struck by the Wolf Fang copper rod. The wolf cavalry charged over quickly, but were defeated even faster. In the blink of an eye, there were more than 10 corpses on the ground. The black-scaled fiend wolves were not spared either. They were either pierced by the Wolf Fang copper rod, or smashed until their tendons and bones were broken, and their lives were severed. This Su Zimo is truly unafraid of death. To think that he would dare to kill in front of an army of more than 10,000 wolves. So what if he doesn't attack? How can the wolf army let him off after causing such a huge commotion? Many cultivators discussed on the city walls. Commander Lu harumphed softly and said coldly, "It's nothing more than a desperate struggle of a trapped beast." When they heard Commander Lu's unfriendly tone, the discussions in the surroundings gradually became much softer. Below Dragon Lake City, the expressions of the two leaders turned extremely terrible. Losing more than 10 cultivators was not a huge loss for the wolf army. Most importantly, on top of the city walls, the people from the various major forces, the commanders of the city, and the reputable experts of the Long Yuan Star were all watching this scene. The two leaders felt that they could not hold their faces back. "Third, don't get entangled with him," the fourth leader frowned and said. "If our army charges forward, the black-scaled fiend wolves beneath us will be able to stomp him into meat paste with 1 foot each." "All right, we'll do as you say." The third leader pointed at Su Zimo from afar and shouted, "Kill! Kill!" Many members of the wolf army could not hold it in any longer. When they heard the third leader's command, they roared and charged out with excited expressions. The fiend wolves galloped and dust billowed. It was not without reason that the wolf army had roamed unhindered on Dragon Lake Planet for many years, and was one of the 4 great bandits. The army of more than 10,000 moved at the same time like a gigantic torrent, with a terrifying momentum. It surged forward with an extremely terrifying aura. Even the expressions of the cultivators standing on the city walls changed slightly with wary expressions, let alone those standing below the city walls. Who could be spared from such a torrent? "All right." Facing the surging torrent, Su Zimo laughed loudly. His expression was fearless as he said loudly, "Today, I'll let you all witness my methods." Su Zimo's eyes shone brightly as he slowly rose into the air. A heart-palpitating aura emanated from between his brows. Suddenly, Su Zimo suddenly opened his mouth and roared at the tens of thousands of evil wolf army soldiers charging over. Roar! This howl was like the roar of a dragon and the cry of a phoenix. It was extremely terrifying and emanated boundless might. It was as if it could command all demons and look down upon all living beings. The cultivators spectating the battle on the walls shuddered. At this moment they even had an illusion. The thing floating in the air was not a person, but an ancient and terrifying beast. Its body was huge, and its wings were flapping. Its entire body was burning with raging flames. The roar of the dragon phoenix. Although Qinglian's true body did not have the bloodline of the dragon phoenix, and could not suppress other ferocious beasts with their bloodlines, she had the dragon phoenix essence spirit, and could release the aura and roar of the taboo dragon phoenix. The human cultivators in the evil wolf army were still considered normal, and were not affected much. After all, with more than 10,000 people gathered together, the howls of wolves were loud and powerful. It was enough to reduce the lethality of the dragon phoenix's roar to the minimum. Some Stage 5 mystic immortals only trembled slightly and frowned slightly, feeling a piercing pain in their ears. However, the black-scaled fiend wolves beneath them seemed to be extremely frightened. In the midst of their high-speed gallop, their limbs suddenly went limp, and they fell to the ground one after another. All of them had terrified expressions and trembled in fear. Some cultivators rode on the backs of wolves, and were caught off guard, as they were sent flying, and fell to the ground. In an instant, the army of more than 10,000 wolves was in chaos. "Get up, you bastard! What are you afraid of? I'm here." Many members of the evil wolf army cursed and urged the black-scaled fiend wolves beneath them. Su Zimo sneered and did not give the evil wolf army a chance. He channeled his mental cultivation technique and activated his essence spirit. Swoosh! Suddenly, 3 balls of flames of different colors rose beside him. Every single flame emitted an extremely terrifying temperature and aura. Black Dao flames were demonic and ghostly. Golden Dao flames were sacred and auspicious. Scarlet Dao flames were scorching hot. Many dermic arts of the lower realm were difficult to release in the upper realm. That was because once these dermic arts fused with heaven and earth essence chi, the level of the dermic arts was not high enough and could not withstand the heaven and earth essence chi and would immediately dissipate. However, the 3 Dao flames that Su Zimo cultivated were different. For the past 10 years, Su Zimo had tried to fuse heaven and earth essence chi into the 3 Dao flames. Not only did the Dao flames not extinguish, they even fused perfectly with the essence chi. The more they burned, the more terrifying their power became. In reality, the Samadhi Dao fire that Su Zimo cultivated had long separated itself from its original dermic art. Along the way, Su Zimo had dabbled in the immortal Buddhist and fiend Dao techniques and had extremely deep attainments. These 3 Dao fires had already fused with his cultivation and his foundation. The deeper one's cultivation in the immortal Dao, the greater the power of the immortal Dao fire. It was the same for the Buddhist and fiend Dao flames. The strength of the 3 Dao fires would increase along with the growth of his cultivation. For example, right now among the 3 Dao flames, the power of the Buddhist Dao fire was clearly stronger than the immortal and fiend Dao flames. That was because the golden Buddhist Dao fire contained the profundities of the perfection of Nirvana Sutra. Although there was still a distance between Su Zimo and the evil wolf army, many of them could already feel the terrifying heat. In a few breaths, the faces of the evil wolf army were flushed red, and they were drenched in sweat. Some of the evil wolf army could not take it, and even took off their heavy armor. On the city walls, a look of pleasant surprise flashed through Yan Fei's eyes as he nodded slightly and praised. The grade of this Dao Flame immortal art is probably not low. Commander Lu was expressionless and did not say a word. Jiang Li of Heaven Fire Hall had a grim expression. The reason why Heaven Fire Hall was able to gain a foothold on Dragon Abyss Planet was because they specialized in the Dao of Fire. Her father possessed a cultivation technique known as the Heavenly Fire Dao technique. It was superior grade yellow grade and extremely powerful. Jiang Li had inherited her father's legacy and was well versed in this Dao. However, the moment Su Zimo's 3 balls of flames appeared, Jiang Li realized that each of the 3 balls of flames was superior to the Heavenly Fire Dao technique that he cultivated. The cultivation technique that this person cultivates is at least low-grade mystic grade. It's extremely likely that it's superior grade. Jiang Li murmured softly. Just as she said that, Su Zimo waved his hands beneath Dragon Abyss City. The 3 balls of flames of different colors collided together and formed a gigantic fireball that was even hotter. The temperature between heaven and earth rose suddenly. It was as though a blazing sun had fallen beneath Dragon Abyss City, causing flames to surge into the heavens. Under the illumination of the flames, Jiang Li's face was pale. With a shocked expression, he said with a trembling voice, "To this cultivation technique, could it be an earth grade?" End of chapter. Chapter 1850. One had to know that on the Dragon Abyss Planet, be it the Heaven Fire Hall or the other powerful factions, none of them had the chance to come into contact with high-grade cultivation techniques or secret skills. The cultivation techniques that the various factions could cultivate were at most high-grade yellow grade. Only some of the commanders and exalted immortals in Dragon Abyss City had the chance to cultivate black-grade cultivation techniques. Earth-grade cultivation techniques were something that even the City Lord of Dragon Abyss City did not have the chance to come into contact with, let alone the cultivators of the various major factions. Therefore, when Jiang Li saw the formation of this gigantic fireball, she felt such intense shock. Not to mention her, even the hearts of the various commanders on the city walls and the guards of Dragon Lake City shook. A trace of greed flashed through the eyes of many Dragon Abyss city guards as they were tempted. If this cultivation technique of the Tao of Fire was truly Earth grade, it would have an irresistible attraction to them. At that moment, the people on the city walls had yet to realize that the fireball that Su Zimo condensed was not the final form of this immortal technique. Below Dragon Abyss City, the black-scaled fiend wolves were intimidated by the roar of the dragon phoenix. They trembled and did not dare to get up. More than 10,000 cultivators of the wolf army leaped down and roared, charging towards Su Zimo with murderous intent. However, when Su Zimo's Samadhi Dao fire condensed into this fireball, the wolf army stopped in their tracks. It was not because of fear, but because they were truly unable to take another step forward. The gigantic fireball in front of them was like a scorching sun. It was red and burned with flames, emitting a terrifying temperature. The sweat on the bodies of the wolf army evaporated the moment it seeped out, turning into water vapor. They could already feel the stinging heat on their faces. Their lips were dry and cracked, and the blood in their bodies seemed to be evaporating. The small group of wolf army soldiers that were charging at the front were even more miserable, as they could not stop in time. At that moment, the armor on the bodies of the wolf army soldiers had already melted, turning into scalding red molten iron that flowed down their bodies slowly. Ah! 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 The wolf army soldiers let out shrill cries. In the boiling molten iron, the bodies of the wolf army also burst into flames. In a few breaths they were burned to ashes. Just as the vicious wolf army was hesitating, the fourth leader suddenly shouted coldly, "There are so many of us. Each of us has one immortal spell, one magic treasure, and one magic treasure. We can also shatter that fireball." All the members of the vicious wolf army reacted successively, and they each formed seals and divine abilities, withdrew their magic treasures, and accumulated strength while waiting to attack. "Kill!" The fourth head gave the order. Boom! 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 Whoosh! 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 Immortal arts surged and divine abilities descended. One by one, magic treasures tore through the void and struck the huge fireball in front of them. Everyone only had one goal, and that was to shatter this fireball. The corners of Su Zimo's mouth curled up. His expression was cold as he shouted, "Good timing!" Before his sentence was finished, Su Zimo pushed with both hands and rolled the gigantic fireball in front of him towards the wolf army. At the same time, his glabella shone and a scarlet flame burst forth, entering the gigantic fireball. Essence Spirit Fire. It was formed by the Kacharati Dao Fire. To be precise, apart from the flames of Qinglian's Essence Spirit, the Essence Spirit Fire also contained the flames of the Dragon Phoenix Essence Spirit, and its power increased exponentially. The moment the fireball collided with the divine abilities, immortal arts and Dharma treasures, it expanded more than 10 times, and its temperature rose rapidly as flames surged into the skies. Instantly, it was as though there were no other living beings in the world except for this blazing sun. The Kacharati Dao fire was formed and illuminated the entire night sky like it was daytime. The fireball expanded more than 10 times, and devoured the hundreds of vicious wolf army soldiers closest to it. The vicious wolf army could not react at all. Before they could even scream, they were burned into nothingness by the fireball, and their bodies and spirits were destroyed. Pust! On the city wall, many cultivators were shocked and dumbfounded. No one expected that the fireball formed by the three flames just now was not the peak of the immortal art's power. The fireball now was several times stronger than the one formed just now. Jiangli was completely speechless and had a blank expression. He could only widen his eyes and look at the scene below the city in disbelief. Could this immortal art be a superior grade earth grade or impossible? Impossible. Jiangli shook his head and did not dare to continue thinking. Yan Fei's expression was grim as he said in a low voice, "Given the power of this cultivation technique, it's probably at least a superior grade earth grade. Furthermore, it's extremely likely to be a heaven grade 1. At that point, the crowd was in an uproar. A heaven grade cultivation technique was almost a legendary treasure. Only the palace of Great Jin had such a powerful cultivation technique. Impossible, Commander Lu said resolutely. A heaven grade cultivation technique is an incredible treasure. How can a stage 5 mystic immortal come into contact with it? Not to mention that he can't come into contact with it. Even if we give it to him to cultivate, he won't be able to comprehend it. His mortal body won't be able to withstand it. Although he said that, Commander Lu's gaze became a little fervent. No matter what, even if this immortal art was not a heaven grade, it was definitely an earth grade. If he could cultivate this immortal art to greater mastery, wouldn't he also have the combat strength to kill those of a higher level? Retreat! Hurry and retreat! The third head had already realized that something was wrong and shouted at the top of his lungs. However, it was already too late. The tens of thousands of soldiers of the evil wolf army attacked. Many immortal arts, divine abilities, and dharma treasures tore through the air and covered the sky. No matter how strong Su Zimo's Kachurati Dao fire was, it could not withstand such power. That huge fireball was shattered by the combined efforts of the tens of thousands of soldiers of the evil wolf army. At that moment, the disaster had just begun. The fireball broke into pieces and turned into countless streaks of fiery light. It was like a heavenly maiden scattering flowers, surging in all directions and sprinkling into the crowd. Even if the evil wolf army was a stage 6 mystic immortal, they could not withstand the flames and were burned to ashes on the spot, dying without a complete corpse. Countless flames connected and formed a huge sea of fire that engulfed the evil wolf army. Ah! 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 Countless soldiers of the evil wolf army struggled, screamed, ran, and cried for help in the sea of fire. This scene was simply like a fiery hell. Countless living beings struggled in this hell, but they were never able to escape. On the city wall, the faces of many cultivators turned pale. Their eyes flickered with fear. Such a method was truly terrifying in the hands of a stage 5 mystic immortal. The third head and the fourth head widened their eyes, and their faces were pale. They did not go forward, so they were not injured by the Kachurati Dao fire. Even at the edge of the scorching sea of fire, the two of them still felt a complete chill. Gone. Everything was gone. The tens of thousands of soldiers of the evil wolf army were almost completely burned to death by this terrifying flame. Across the sea of fire, the green figure in midair was like a devil that had crawled out of hell. End of chapter. Chapter 1851. On the city wall. All the cultivators that saw this scene were shocked and moved. The vicious wolf army had roamed freely on Dragon Lake Star for many years. As one of the 4 great bandits, they'd even annihilated 3 great powers. They were ferocious, cruel, and killed people like flies. When had they ever suffered such a huge setback? This time, the 2 leaders of the vicious wolf army had mustered a large force and personally led an army of over 10,000 to deal with a rank 5 mystic immortal. They wanted to be absolutely sure and use this to establish their might. But who would have thought that the moment this battle erupted, it would actually be the situation before their eyes? No matter the outcome of today's battle, even if the 2 leaders of the vicious wolf army were to kill Su Zimo in their rage, the vicious wolf army would still be defeated. Su Wan looked at the vicious wolf army that was struggling in the sea of flames below, and said softly, "The cycle of the heavenly Tao, retribution is not pleasant. I presume that today is the vicious wolf army's retribution." Everyone was silent. All these years, the vicious wolf army had burned, killed, and plundered countless people. They'd committed countless crimes. Even though the scene before Dragon Lake City was extremely miserable, everyone didn't have the slightest bit of pity towards the vicious wolf army. Duan Tianliang and Big Yellow, who'd followed Su Zimo for 10 years, grimaced as they watched. Yu Hao and the others were even more shocked in their hearts. They originally thought that they already had a very deep understanding of Su Zimo's methods. But now, the 3 of them realized that what they knew might only be the tip of the iceberg. Commander Lu was expressionless. He'd called everyone over to watch the battle on the city wall, with the intention of seeing how Su Zimo was tortured and killed. But he'd never imagined that it would be the current situation. Of course, Commander Lu faintly felt a wave of excitement in his heart. This immortal technique was too powerful. If he was able to obtain this immortal technique, then losing the bet today was nothing. The Burning Sea Heavenly Pattern Technique, that he'd lent to Yin Fei was only a low-grade profound rank technique. Compared to this immortal technique before him, it was simply the difference between the clouds and mud. In the crowd, Zhuangge Protector Shui heaved a sigh of relief and said in his heart that he was lucky. Fortunately, he didn't act rashly. With his ability, it was naturally impossible for him to die under this immortal technique. But even so, he would be burned to an extremely sorry state. But now he didn't have any misgivings. In addition to him, the cultivators of the other factions were restless too. Everyone from the various factions was still coveting the Sualua leaf in Su Zimo's storage bag. Noticing this, Su Wan frowned and looked worried. The blue-robed woman from the thunder-shaking hall shook her head and said softly, "Even if his immortal arts are shocking, this person will not be able to escape death today. The power of this immortal art is so shocking. It must consume a lot of energy. With his cultivation at the 5th level of the mysterious Yuan stage, I'm sure he's extremely weak right now, and is just an arrow at the end of its flight." Su Wan sighed softly. This was exactly what she was worried about. If she and the blue-dressed woman could think of it, then the people of the other forces would definitely be able to guess it as well. The two leaders of the Vicious Wolf Army would naturally be able to see it as well. Normally speaking, releasing the Kacharati Dao fire with all his might would indeed consume a lot of Su Zimo's essence spirit. However, no one knew that Su Zimo's essence spirit was not at the 5th level of the mysterious Yuan stage, but the 7th. He cultivated the perfection of Wisdom Nirvana Sutra, infused with the essence spirits of the Dragon Phoenix and Qinglian. With the help of the power of illumination and nether fluorescence, his essence spirit was even more condensed and terrifying than the essence spirits of ordinary Class 7 mystic immortals. The release of the Kacharati Dao fire did not have much of an impact on him. The sea of fire gradually receded. Some of the Class 6 mystic immortals of the Vicious Wolf Army were charred black and unrecognizable. They relied on their respective trump cards and life-saving methods to barely survive. The two leaders had grim expressions as they did a rough count. There were only a few hundred survivors of the Vicious Wolf Army. Even more of the Vicious Wolf Army died in the Sea of Fire. That fire reduced the army of more than 10,000 to less than 1,000. More than half of the 10,000 black-scaled fiend wolves were dead. The remaining wolves had long scattered and fled without a trace. The remaining few hundred soldiers of the Vicious Wolf Army were almost all seriously injured. The fire poison entered their bodies, and they all sat on the ground, coughing up black ashes. Their expressions were terrified, and they had already lost their ability to fight. It was too tragic. Even if a great battle broke out with the various major forces on Dragon Abyss Planet, the Vicious Wolf Army would not end up like this. But now, all of this was done by one person. Su Zimo. The third leader's eyes were red as he roared. "I'm going to kill you and use your blood as a sacrifice to my dead brother Vicious Wolf." The third leader held the four-edged golden hammer with both hands and gritted his teeth. With a ferocious expression, he strode towards Su Zimo. He was worried that if Su Zimo roared again, the black-scaled fiend wolf under him would be scared to the ground and become a burden to him. Therefore, he might as well give up on using it. The fourth leader's face was as cold as ice. Without saying a word, he also floated down from the back of the black-scaled fiend wolf. With small steps, his right hand held the hilt of the saber at his waist. He bent down slightly and sped towards Su Zimo. Su Zimo sneered slightly. Standing in the air, he looked down at the third leader who was charging over and said coldly, "You still want to kill me? Today, I'll make the both of you die in Dragon Abyss City." Swoosh! Su Zimo's figure moved, and he suddenly burst forth, diving down. Die! The third leader was completely fearless. Raising the four-edged golden hammer in his hand, he circulated his blood chi and smashed it fiercely towards Su Zimo, who was charging down. Su Zimo was still in midair when his glabella shone, and a bronze square cauldron flew out. Reaching out, he grabbed the bronze square cauldron and swung it in a semicircle, smashing it heavily towards the third leader's four-edged golden hammer. Clang! The four-edged golden hammer and the bronze square cauldron collided, letting out an ear-piercing sound. A visible airwave suddenly burst forth between the two Dharma treasures, and spread towards the surroundings. Worried that Qinglian's bloodline would be recognized, Su Zimo did not use his blood qi when he attacked this time round. Even so, with the strength of his dive, Qinglian's physique and the power of the bronze square cauldron, he still had the upper hand in this head-on clash. Su Zimo descended from the skies like a god with a divine might and an insufferably arrogant aura. The third leader shuddered and retreated half a step. A tremendous force came crashing down. His entire foot had already sunk into the ground. The third leader's eyes were filled with shock and horror. He could not imagine that such a terrifying, ferocious power could be released from this seemingly frail body. Again, Su Zimo did not give the third leader a chance to catch his breath. Raising the bronze square cauldron, he smashed it down once more. The third leader could only swing the other four-edged golden hammer and receive it. Clang! Another deafening sound echoed. The third leader grunted and his teeth loosened, bleeding from the impact. Both his arms were trembling and aching. Instinctively, his gaze landed on his four-edged golden hammer, and his pupils constricted. With those two collisions, the two lines on his four-edged golden hammer were flattened by the broken bronze cauldron. The third leader did not know that if it was any other weapon such as sabers, spears, swords and halberds, it would have been broken by the bronze square cauldron. Thank you for Xiao Wu's reward. End of chapter. Chapter 1852. This third brother of the vicious wolf army is adept in body refinement techniques and possesses boundless strength. I never imagined that this Su Zimo, who looks extremely weak, is actually able to go head-on with the third brother of the vicious wolf army and not fall into a disadvantageous position. A commander of Dragon Lake City exclaimed with admiration. Another person said in a low voice, I reckon that this kid has cultivated some sort of formidable body refinement technique as well. Otherwise, it's absolutely impossible for him to surmount 2 levels and go against a 7th-level mysterious immortal. This person didn't say it clearly, but many people were able to guess that the grade of this body refinement technique would absolutely not be low. Even if he possesses some brute force, it's useless. The fourth brother of the vicious wolf army's saber technique is treacherous, soft, and extremely vicious. It's extremely difficult for this kid to resist the joint forces of the two of them. As soon as he finished speaking, a change had already occurred in the battlefield below Dragon Lake City. Su Zimo and the third brother had successively collided head-on with each other twice, and the fourth brother had already arrived by Su Zimo's side. Clang! The saber left its sheath, and a cold light flashed as it slashed down towards Su Zimo's neck. No one was able to see the appearance of this saber clearly, but they saw a saber light flicker with an extremely swift speed, and it practically arrived in an instant. Kill! At the same time, the third brother once again raised the four-edged golden hammer and smashed it fiercely towards Su Zimo, who stood before him. The two leaders made a move at practically the same time, and they cooperated with tacit understanding as they launched a pincer attack that caused one's heart to palpitate. Su Zimo's expression was fearless, and there wasn't the slightest trace of panic in his eyes as he raised the bronze square cauldron with his left hand and smashed it towards the four-edged golden hammer that assaulted his face. At the same time, he stretched out his right hand and didn't even look before relying on his unfathomable spirit sense to grab towards the cold light that slashed towards him with his bare hands. I want one of your hands. The fourth brother sneered lightly, and a wisp of complacency and delight flashed past his narrow and long eyes. On the city wall, Yanfei shook his head lightly when he saw this scene, and he sighed lightly in his heart. No matter how strong one's body refinement was, one couldn't use one's body to go head-on against the weapons and magic treasures of the enemy, as this was a great taboo in a battle between cultivators. Commander Lu said directly, "This hand is gone." Bang! On the battlefield, the bronze square cauldron once again collided with the four-edged golden hammer. The third head's body shuddered violently as the bones in his body began to crack. It felt like his body was about to fall apart. On the other side, Su Zimo's palm had also come into contact with the descending cold light. Under normal circumstances, the palms of body-tempering cultivators would be filled with calluses, and their skin would be rough. This palm was fair and tender, with long and slender fingers. It was extremely beautiful, even better than the skin of a newborn baby, with such a delicate palm, not to mention resisting a sharp weapon or magic treasure. Even if it were to knock or touch it, it would likely break open a hole. However, the moment this palm landed on the sharp blade, it suddenly became soft. With a curl and a tremor, it erupted with an extremely terrifying force. Crack! The sound of metal shattering resounded. On the city wall, countless cultivators were watching this scene, and their expressions changed greatly. The saber in the fourth head's hand was shattered into pieces by Su Zimo's palm, which shattered the saber into pieces. On the other hand, Su Zimo's palm was completely unscathed. How is that possible? Is he wearing some sort of Dharma treasure on his palm? A series of exclamations sounded from the city walls. Before everyone could recover from their shock, a change happened on the battlefield. Die. Although the saber shattered, the fourth head did not retreat. Instead, he growled deeply and strode forward, stabbing forward. There's a blade in the saber. Yan Fei's gaze flickered as he exclaimed softly. Everyone focused their gazes, and saw that the fourth head was still wielding a sharp saber. It was pitch black, and looked like a broken saber. As it turned out, there was another broken saber hidden within the fourth head's saber. If not for the fact that Su Zimo shattered the saber, nobody would have noticed the existence of the broken saber. This turn of events had exceeded Su Zimo's expectations as well. When he saw the pitch-black broken saber piercing over, Su Zimo instinctively reached out to grab it. The moment his palm collided with the pitch-black broken saber, Su Zimo's expression changed. Something's not right. Su Zimo was shocked. The sharpness of this broken saber can injure Qinglian's true body. Although he was at Mystic Origin Stage 5, Qinglian's true body was indestructible. Almost no Mystic Origin Stage Dharma treasure could injure her. However, the fourth head only had a broken saber in his hand. It was obviously an abandoned Dharma treasure. Yet it had pierced his palm. At the same time, just now, a familiar vibration came from the bronze. This broken saber is a psychic Dharma treasure. This thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind. However, when he realized this, the pitch-black sharp saber pierced his palm. At this moment, even if he used Heaven's Feet and other divine abilities, it was already too late. It would be difficult for him to dodge the sharp saber. A smile appeared on the fourth head's face, as if he had succeeded in his scheme. Back then, he had accidentally obtained this broken saber and treated it like a treasure. Although this pitch-black broken saber was an abandoned Dharma treasure, the remaining half was still extremely sharp. It could even easily cut through high-grade Mystic Origin Stage Dharma treasures. However, this pitch-black broken saber could not fuse with Heaven and Earth Essence Chi after all. The power it could unleash was limited, and could only be used as a surprise attack. Therefore, the fourth head spent a lot of effort to hide this pitch-black broken saber in a long saber and carry it with him. All these years, this pitch-black broken saber had performed miraculous feats. Those who had seen this pitch-black broken saber had already died under this broken saber. The fourth head saw clearly that the pitch-black broken saber had already pierced Su Zimo's palm. Even if this person had any other trump cards, he could still completely cripple this person's palm. In a flash, Su Zimo activated his essence spirit and released a secret technique. His entire body flickered and disappeared from the spot. The fourth head's pupils suddenly constricted. Before his eyes, the green-robed cultivator had mysteriously disappeared into thin air without any warning. How is this possible? The pitch-black broken saber in the fourth head's hands stabbed into empty air. There was nothing there. The fourth head could be considered as someone who had experienced hundreds of battles. However, he had never seen such a situation before. Was he seeing a ghost? Immediately after, another question flashed through the fourth head's mind. Where did this person go after vanishing to? The entire battlefield seemed to have fallen into silence. Even the sounds of discussion and chatter on the city walls seemed to vanish in an instant. Before the fourth head could think of an answer, the third head, who was not far away, suddenly widened his eyes and looked behind the fourth head with a shocked expression, as though he had seen something extremely terrifying. The third head opened his mouth and moved, as though he wanted to say something to remind the fourth head. However, it was already too late. The fourth master heard a familiar voice beside his ear. It was calm and cold. "If you want a hand of mine, I'll take your life." That voice was right in front of him. In fact, the fourth head could even feel the warm breath of the person behind him. A bone-chilling coldness surged and covered his entire body. Bang! The next moment, he felt a sharp pain in his head. His consciousness exploded, and his essence spirit was shattered instantly as well. His consciousness dissipated and his gaze was blank as he collapsed stiffly. He was dead. End of chapter. Chapter 1853. The fourth head of the wolf army was caught in this situation. Even at the moment of his death, he did not understand how Su Zimo had disappeared into thin air and appeared behind him. Not to mention him, even the people on the city wall, who were not part of the situation, were shocked. They did not know what had happened just now. What's going on? Was that teleportation? Impossible. Teleportation is a peerless ability. How can a profound stage use it? But that Su Zimo did disappear into thin air and appeared behind the fourth head of the wolf army. After a short silence, a wave of voices erupted from the crowd. The various commanders of Dragon Lake City had surprised and bewildered expressions as well. One had to know that most of them were native exalted immortals. They were experienced and knowledgeable, much stronger than the people of the various large factions. However, even they could not see how Su Zimo had disappeared and appeared behind the fourth head just now. In fact, not to mention exalted immortals like them, even the earth immortals and heaven immortals of the great Jin country would not be able to recognize the origin of this movement technique. This was the top secret technique of the dragons. There were many dragons in the dragon world, but there were not many who were qualified to cultivate this true dragon's 9 flashes. What happened just now? Commander Lu frowned and said in a low voice, "Could it be a minor ability teleportation? It doesn't look like it." Another commander shook his head and said, "Even if it's teleportation, someone has to exchange positions with Su Zimo. But just now, this person disappeared into thin air and appeared behind the fourth head of the wolf army to kill him. Could this be some kind of movement technique?" The expressions of the commanders of Dragon Lake Planet were somewhat solemn. Just now, if they were to exchange positions with the fourth head of the wolf army, it would probably be difficult for them to react to this move. This was a little terrifying. Originally, in their eyes, this Su Zimo below the city wall was an ant that they could casually crush to death. But now, everyone realized that this ant actually had the means to threaten them. "Fellow Taoists, please help us." At this moment, the third commander of the vicious wolf army suddenly shouted to the people on the city wall, "Whoever can help me kill this person, my vicious wolf army is willing to give 1,000,000 core condensing pills." The bounty on his head had increased from 100,000 to 1,000,000. The third had already realized that if he didn't ask for help, he would also die here. Only with the assistance of the experts from the various factions on the city walls would they have a chance to kill this person. With a generous reward, there would definitely be brave men. Moreover, all the major factions had their eyes on the Sualua leaves in Su Zimo's storage pouch. The value of this leaf was much more valuable than 1,000,000 essence condensing pills. "Everyone from the Sky Scorpion stronghold, heed my orders." The young master of the Sky Scorpion Citadel suddenly sent a telepathic message through his consciousness. "I don't care if he's dead or alive, but we must snatch his storage bag." Understood. The people of the Sky Scorpion Stockade agreed. The old man behind the young master of the Sky Scorpion Citadel, a rank 7 mystic immortal, said in a low voice, "Young master, you don't have to go down. I'll lead these dozen people." The young master of the Sky Scorpion Citadel hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Uncle Jiang, I'll leave it to you." "Don't worry, young master," the old man called Uncle Jiang said. "This kid has been fighting for so long, so he should have used up most of his trump cards. He's no longer a threat, so there's nothing to fear. Let's go." Uncle Jiang waved his hand lightly and led the dozen rank 6 mystic immortals of the Sky Scorpion Citadel down the city wall. Almost at the same time, cultivators from the Sky Fiend sect, Skyfire Hall, and profound light sect flashed out and descended the city wall, rushing towards the battlefield. Only the Twin Dragons sect and the Thunderquake Hall chose to bide their time. The Twin Dragons sect's Su-1 wanted to befriend Su Zimo, so she naturally couldn't kick him while he was down. The other cultivators of the Thunderquake Hall wanted to attack, but they were stopped by the blue-dressed woman. The blue-dressed woman vaguely had a premonition that it was best not to get involved in this mess today. Among the 8 major forces of the Dragon Abyss planet, the Zuyango army had long been intercepted and killed by Su Zimo in the 100,000 Mountains. The people of the Mystic Een Mountain had also been slaughtered by Su Zimo in the Eventide Workshop. Even the young master of the Mystic Een Mountain had died. Other than these 4 forces, the Sky Scorpion Citadel, Profound Light Sect, Skyfire Hall, and Sky Fiend Sect of the 8 major forces had rushed to the battlefield, wanting to take advantage of the situation and seize the treasures. These 4 forces were led by the personal guards of the young master, 4 rank 7 mystic immortals. Including the 3rd leader of the Vicious Wolf army, there were 5 rank 7 mystic immortals. Behind them, there were dozens of rank 6 mystic immortals. These cultivators didn't seem to be many in number, and they were far less powerful than the Vicious Wolf army. But they were extremely strong. Everyone knew that the flames that burned the Vicious Wolf army just now consumed too much energy. Su Zimo couldn't release it a second time in a short period of time. Even if he could release it, the 5 rank 7 mystic immortals would be able to completely suppress the flames if they joined forces. Su Zimo sensed this scene and was completely unmoved. He only sneered slightly and didn't even look at them. With a light tap of his foot, he took the 4th leader's storage bag and the jet-black broken blade in his hand. This jet-black broken blade was a spiritual Dharma treasure. Although it had been abandoned, it was still very useful to him. Su Zimo was secretly delighted and kept the jet-black broken blade in his storage bag. In just a short while, the cultivators of the Sky Scorpion Citadel, Profound Light Sect, and the rest of the 4 major forces had all arrived and surrounded Su Zimo. Fellow Taoists, in a battle later, the 5 of us will join forces and fight this kid head-on, Uncle Jiang said in a deep voice. The rest of you don't have to go forward. Stand outside and look for an opportunity to attack with all your might. Okay. The rank 7 mystic immortals of the Profound Light Sect and the other forces nodded. The 3rd leader of the Vicious Wolf army naturally had no objections. What's wrong? Su Zimo was surrounded, but he didn't panic at all. Instead, he looked even more arrogant. He looked around and sneered. The few of you want to join forces with the Vicious Wolf army? The rank 7 mystic immortals of the various major forces were silent. They only looked coldly at Su Zimo and were on guard. They didn't want to suffer a huge setback at this time. This green-robed cultivator had many trump cards, and his methods were strange and unpredictable. Even if they had the advantage in numbers, they still didn't dare to be careless. Su Zimo smiled and nodded. Very well. Since you want to take advantage of the situation, don't blame me for killing. Although Su Zimo was smiling, his words sent chills down everyone's spines. Arrogant kid, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Uncle Jiang shouted. Let me tell you, a rank 5 mystic immortal like you can't make the decision on this Dragon Abyss planet. It's not your place to be arrogant. Attack. As soon as he said that, the 5 rank 7 mystic immortals attacked at the same time. The 3rd leader of the Vicious Wolf army swallowed a crimson pill, and his aura suddenly became extremely violent. His eyes were crimson red as he roared and charged towards Su Zimo. Uncle Jiang formed an immortal art and activated his primordial spirit. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of essence blood. He shouted, Heavenly Scorpion descend. This mouthful of essence blood was hundreds of years of cultivation. Uncle Jiang went all out the moment he attacked. Chapter 1854. This blood essence rapidly evolved in midair, condensing into a huge scorpion that was over 100 feet long. Its tail was curved, and its poisonous stinger hung above its head. It charged straight at Su Zimo. Myriad Manifestation Fist. The Stage 7 mystic immortal from the Heaven Fiend sect circulated his blood chi and rushed over. He condensed his essence chi and punched at Su Zimo. This person was clearly wearing a mystic glove on his fist. When he punched out, a myriad manifestation appeared. There were layers of ghostly shadows and a baleful aura that made one's heart palpitate. Mystic light imprisonment. The Stage 7 mystic immortal from the Profound Light sect was a beautiful woman. She waved her hands and strands of mysterious light shot out from her fingertips. The power of divine power spread. Immediately after, chains that emitted divine light appeared on Su Zimo's body. There were mysterious runes engraved on them, and they wrapped around his limbs and constantly contracted. Heavenly fire. The Stage 7 mystic immortal from the Heaven Fire Hall condensed an immortal art and pointed a finger at Su Zimo's head. Boom! A huge pillar of fire fell from the sky and smashed down at Su Zimo. The 5 Stage 7 mystic immortals attacked with all their might. Immortal arts and divine powers erupted, and they attacked from afar. They coordinated well, and instantly sealed off all of Su Zimo's escape routes. This attack was much more terrifying than the previous attack by the 2 leaders of the Vicious Wolf Army. This time, the 3rd leader and the Heaven Fiend sect's Stage 7 mystic immortal were in close combat. In the distance, the Stage 7 mystic immortals from the Sky Scorpion Stronghold, Profound Light sect, and Heaven Fire Hall also used their immortal arts and divine powers. They surged forward with terrifying momentum. Su Zimo frowned slightly. After all, his cultivation realm was much lower than the 5 of them. Now, he did not dare to use his blood chi. Although he still had the upper hand in close combat, it was very difficult for him to win in a short period of time. The Heaven-slaying sword art and Earth-slaying sword art's destructive power was extremely terrifying. But once the sword chi was scattered, it might not be able to pose much of a threat to the Stage 7 mystic immortals. Kill! Right at this moment, the few tens of rank 6 mysterious immortals that were lingering at the edge of the battlefield made a move successively. They withdrew their respective magic treasures and divine abilities, and they covered the heavens and the earth as they descended. Su Zimo's eyes shone brightly as he activated his essence spirit once more and released an innate divine power. On both sides of his back, 2 huge white tusks suddenly grew out. They were ferocious and sharp, as if they could pierce through everything and pierce through the void. Innate divine ability, 6 Fangs godly power. On Tianhuang mainland, Su Zimo had already comprehended the innate ability to its peak. Once it was unleashed, the power of the 6 divine elephants would grow. His strength would increase by 6 times. However, in the upper realm, due to the limitations of the order. In addition, releasing this innate ability was extremely taxing on one's primordial spirit. Even with Su Zimo's 7th level mystic origin stage cultivation, he could barely release 2 divine elephant tusks. Even so, his strength had increased by more than 2 times in an instant. Not only had his physical strength increased greatly, even the power of his origin spirit had risen greatly, as if it had come into contact with another level. What is this? Why have I never seen this divine power before? Why do I feel that this lad's aura has increased by a lot? It's as if he's become a different person. Everyone on the city wall was shocked. Look, what's that? Many cultivators focused their gazes and saw a gigantic divine elephant vaguely appear behind Su Zimo. It had 6 ivory tusks that were as white as jade, and its entire body emitted a heavy and majestic pressure. When the divine elephant tusks descended, the many cultivators on Dragon Lake City felt an inexplicable sense of palpitations and wanted to bow down and worship it. Even the rank 8 mystic immortals present, Commander Liu and the others were shocked. This 6-tusked divine elephant was like an ancient deity. When it descended on Dragon Lake Planet, it was as if the planet could not withstand the heavy pressure brought about by the divine elephant tusks, and trembled slightly. Su Zimo suddenly opened his mouth and howled into the sky. At the same time, the divine elephant phantom behind him swung its trunk and howled into the sky, letting out a resounding and furious roar. Bung! 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 Instantly, the mystic light chains on Su Zimo's body broke and turned into nothingness. At the same time, Su Zimo waved his sleeves and raised a handful of yellow sand. The yellow sand scattered and shone with a golden light, forming a gigantic yellow sand barrier that blocked the Dharma treasures and divine abilities of the dozens of rank 6 mystic immortals. This was a supreme treasure created by the rank 9 creation Qinglian. Not many people in this world knew what changes would happen to the rank 9 creation Qinglian. Back in Tianhuang mainland, even Dai Yu only said that the Qinglian would have an even greater creation later on. However, she did not know the details. Therefore, Su Zimo was not worried that others would recognize him when he released the 9 heavens breath soil. At the same time, Su Zimo raised the bronze square cauldron with his left hand and suppressed the third head in front of him. Clenching his right hand tightly, he did not turn back and punched in reverse towards the myriad manifestations fist of Heaven Fiend sect. Boom! There was a loud explosion almost at the same time. The third head's body shuddered as he felt a terrifying and ferocious power surge into his body through the four-edged golden hammer. Even with his physique, he could not withstand it. This power was much stronger than the power released by Su Zimo initially. Ah! The third head shrieked tragically. The bronze square cauldron sent the four-edged golden hammer in his hands flying. He could not hold on to it at all as his palm was torn and blood flowed out. The four-edged golden hammer that was sent flying also contained an extremely terrifying power. It turned into a golden light and crashed into the crowd outside. 2 rank 6 mystic immortals could not dodge in time and were struck by the golden light. They were smashed into pieces on the spot and died in a mist of blood. On the other side, fists collided. The rank 7 mystic immortal of Heaven Fiend sect even had a black-grade Dharma treasure on his fist and released the myriad manifestations fist immortal technique. However, the myriad manifestations ghost shadow was smashed into pieces by Qinglian's real body. The expression of the rank 7 mystic immortal of Heaven Fiend sect also changed drastically. The clothes on his arm were instantly torn apart by the violent power that surged in. His arm was already covered with bloody cracks. It was obvious that this happened because he could not withstand the power of Su Zimo's punch. This person stared at his arm with a pained expression and let out a low growl from the depths of his throat. Bang! Immediately after, under countless gazes, this arm exploded and flesh and blood splattered everywhere. In the blink of an eye, only a few pieces of eerie white bones were left outside, dangling casually. The intense pain stimulated this person's mind, and he almost fainted on the spot. At this moment, he caught a glimpse of a white light from the corner of his eye. Immediately after, an extremely sharp aura arrived in an instant. Killing intent burst forth, and this person felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar, his entire body turning cold. Oh no! This word flashed across the mind of the rank 7 mystic immortal of Heaven Fiend sect. In the next moment, a wisp of white sword chi entered his forehead. Poof! A bloody hole appeared in between this person's eyebrows and scarlet blood flowed out. The rank 7 mystic immortal of Heaven Fiend sect had fallen. End of chapter. Chapter 1855. The moment Su Zimo sent the Class 7 mystic immortal of Heaven Fiend sect retreating with a punch, he flicked his finger gently and released a heaven-slaying sword chi. A single strand of sword chi had killed this person. Right then the heavenly fire descended. Su Zimo tossed the bronze square tripod in his hands upwards and hovered above his head. During the tribulation, the bronze square tripod had already established a connection with Su Zimo's essence spirit after being tempered by heaven and earth essence chi. In Tianhuang mainland, Su Zimo could only swing the bronze square tripod and smash people back and forth. However, at that moment, he could already control the treasure preliminarily. The bronze square tripod hovered above Su Zimo's head. Although 3 sides were still filled with cracks, the side that was intact emitted a mysterious and ancient glow. That ball of crimson fire fell with a terrifying momentum and heavily crashed into the bronze square cauldron. The two collided, but there was not much of a commotion. The fiery light fell with great momentum, but it was silently neutralized by the bronze square cauldron. The bronze square tripod did not budge at all. However, the scarlet beam of light collapsed and turned into countless sparks that splattered everywhere. Su Zimo stood beneath the bronze square tripod, and was safe and sound without a single spark. At that moment, the gigantic scorpion formed from Uncle Zhang's essence blood had already closed in. It waved its pincers and swung its tail, piercing toward Su Zimo with its poisonous stinger. Humph! The ancient tripod hovered above Su Zimo's head and sneered. He channeled his divine power and pointed at the gigantic scorpion, hollering softly, "Hell Dao!" Instantly hell descended. It was sinister and terrifying as blood chi filled the air and darkness engulfed it. The scorpion fell into hell and could no longer see Su Zimo. It could only feel countless malevolent ghosts lunging towards it, wanting to devour its flesh. The scorpion was condensed from Uncle Zhang's hundreds of years of cultivation. However, falling into the Hell Dao was akin to falling into an endless abyss that could never break free. Before long, the scorpion was haunted by the malevolent ghosts and was completely refined, vanishing. Uncle Zhang's face paled slightly. He had abandoned hundreds of years of cultivation, and he hadn't even touched the corner of Su Zimo's clothes before he was turned into nothingness by Su Zimo's minor techniques. One had to know that when Su Zimo released his innate divine power, his strength would increase by 2 times. The minor mystical abilities that he released also became more powerful, and their power increased greatly. They easily broke through Uncle Zhang's immortal technique. Compared to the fallen stage 7 Xian immortal of the Heaven Fiend sect, he was already considered lucky. Although this battle took a long time to describe, it actually happened in the blink of an eye. At that instant, the cultivators on the walls finally reacted and exclaimed, "Heavens, 1 against 5. And he actually killed a 7th stage mystic immortal. Where did this person come from? Could he really be an ascender from the lower realms? Could this person be the reincarnation of an ascendant immortal? Not to mention the cultivators from the various great powers. Even the native exalted immortals of Dragon Lake City were shocked. Disbelief flashed across the eyes of the various commanders. From the start of the battle until now, the trump cards that Su Zimo had revealed were something that even the native exalted immortals could not compare to. And this person was only a 5th stage mystic immortal. How could a 5th stage mystic immortal know so many powerful mystical abilities and secret techniques? Although this battle had yet to end, the current situation had already exceeded everyone's expectations. Yanfei could not help but sigh. This kid became famous in a single battle. Many cultivators could not help but recall the scene in the Dark Knight house. Commander Liu had once called everyone here to watch a good show. Perhaps even Commander Liu did not expect that this show would turn out like this. Many cultivators turned their gazes and secretly looked at Commander Liu, who was on the city walls. Commander Liu was expressionless, and his gaze was fixed on the battlefield. He did not say a word, and no one knew what he was thinking. Duan Tianliang, Yu Hao, and the rest were naturally overjoyed. Su Wan had a complicated expression as she let out a long sigh. She felt a sense of relief. Fortunately, she did not choose to be enemies with this person. This person's potential was way too great. If he did not die today, there would definitely be a place for him on Dragon Abyss Planet after he grew and cultivated for thousands of years. Given his capabilities, there was a high chance that he could establish the 9th major faction on Dragon Abyss Planet. Miss, that person seems to be a protector of Zuyangu. Right then, the burly man behind Su Wan pointed at a figure below the city and said softly. Below Dragon Abyss City, the battle was intense and no one noticed that another figure had appeared on the battlefield. That person was Protector Shui of Zuyangu. Fellow Taoists, when Protector Shui saw that the situation was not right, he no longer hid and arrived on the battlefield. He sent a voice transmission to the 3rd head of the Vicious Wolf Army and the others. Against a 5th stage mystic immortal, just use your essence spirit secret techniques. Why bother with him? Normally speaking, be it in the upper or lower worlds, cultivators would not use essence spirit secret techniques easily in a fight. Once one's essence spirit was damaged, it would be extremely difficult to heal, and it would even affect one's future cultivation. Furthermore, in the hearts of the experts, they were level 7 mystic immortals, and were 2 cultivation realms ahead of Su Zimo. Therefore, they could suppress him with a casual attack. Everyone's first reaction was not to use their essence spirit secret techniques, But now, Protector Shue's words jolted everyone present. That was right. Their cultivation realms were higher than Su Zimo's. Once they released their essence spirit secret techniques, Su Zimo would definitely not be able to defend against it. Even if this person had some trump cards that could neutralize an essence spirit secret technique. However, if they joined forces and released it at the same time, this person would definitely die. The third head of the vicious wolf army, the beautiful woman of profound light sect, Protector Shue, and the others exchanged glances and nodded secretly. Everyone, you must not hold back. You must attack with all your might and kill this lad to prevent future troubles. Protector Shue instructed once more. Before he could finish, his glabella flickered with a divine light and released an extremely powerful spirit consciousness. It condensed into a blood-colored sun in midair and charged towards Su Zimo. It's an essence spirit secret technique. On the city wall, Su Wan exclaimed with a grim expression. Not good. Yan Fei frowned slightly and whispered. No matter how strong that lad is, he won't be able to defend against the essence spirit attacks of 5 grade 7 mystic immortals. Commander Lu sneered. A bunch of fools. Only now do you remember to use your essence spirit secret techniques. On the battlefield, the third head of the vicious wolf army opened his glabella and condensed his spirit consciousness, releasing a golden beam of light that sped towards Su Zimo. The glabella of the beautiful woman of profound light sect shone with a divine light, and a beam of light as thick as a finger shot out. Her spirit consciousness spread, and her essence spirit secret technique was released. Uncle Jiang took a deep breath of air and condensed his essence spirit as well, releasing his secret technique. In the blink of an eye, 5 grade 7 mystic immortals attacked at the same time and released their essence spirit secret techniques. Against the attacks of 5 experts, Su Zimo stood in midair with a calm expression. His eyes were bright, and there was not a trace of panic in them. On the contrary, there seemed to be a hint of mockery in his eyes. You want to fight with your essence spirit? Su Zimo raised his brow slightly. There's still daytime, everyone should sleep early. End of chapter. Chapter 1856. Su Zimo channeled his mental cultivation technique and released an essence spirit secret skill without hesitation. A scarlet divine light shot out from his glabella. It did not fly far before it materialized and hovered in midair. It was a scarlet scale that was the size of a palm and shaped like a crescent moon. Everyone present, including the commanders on the city walls, had never seen or heard of an essence spirit secret skill in the form of a scale before. But the moment this scale descended, everyone felt their hearts palpitate for no reason. How is that possible? A Dragon Lake City commander frowned slightly. There's no way the essence spirit secret skill of a grade 5 mystic immortal would possess such a frightening aura. Nobody knew that the scarlet scale was a dragon scale. Furthermore, it was the reverse scale of dragons. The reverse scale flew towards Guardian Shui of Zuinggu at a steady speed. However, Guardian Shui sensed danger and shouted hurriedly, "Everyone help me." The 2 people closest to Guardian Shui were Uncle Jiang of Sky Scorpion Stronghold and the beautiful woman of Mystic Light Sect. Both of them hesitated for a moment before controlling their essence spirit secret skills to collide against the scarlet scale in midair. Almost at the same time, the essence spirit secret skills of Guardian Shui, Uncle Jiang, and the beautiful woman of Mystic Light Sect collided against the reverse scale. When Su Zimo sensed that, he had already turned around and did not take another look. The 4 great Yuan spirit secret techniques fought and clashed silently. There was no earth-shattering sound. However, a series of spirit consciousness fluctuations rippled through the void. Then a horrifying scene occurred. The moment the 3 essence spirit secret skills collided against the scarlet scale, Guardian Shui, Uncle Jiang and the beautiful woman of Mystic Light Sect shuddered and widened their eyes, as though they had sensed something extremely terrifying. The 3 of them were horrified and their eyes were filled with fear. And this expression was forever fixed on the faces of the 3 of them. Right in front of everyone, the 3 of them collapsed limply, as though they had lost their souls. Their eyeballs bulged and they died with grievances. They're dead. Yan Fei looked at everything in disbelief. His spirit consciousness could clearly sense that there was no longer any life force in the bodies of the three of them. Protector Shui and the other two did not have a single wound on them. However, the three of them had already fallen. Only when one's essence spirit was severely injured and their soul dispersed would such a strange scene occur. But how could this be? The crimson scale was shattered into pieces by their primordial spirit secret arts. It did not even touch their divine sense. Protector Shui and the other two died on the spot. On the city wall, many cultivators were also shocked. Could it be that this essence spirit secret technique can't even be touched? A cultivator said with a trembling voice. There was a commotion in the crowd. Dragons have reverse scales, and those who touch them will die. Guardian Shui and the other two did not know that Su Zimo's primordial spirit was originally at the 7th level of the arcane origin stage. Moreover, he had unleashed the innate ability of the 6 tusks divine force, causing the power of his primordial spirit to skyrocket and surpass that of a level 7 mystic immortal. Coupled with the terrifying power of the reverse scale secret technique, the three of them could not withstand the impact of the primordial spirit at all. The battle was still not over. Su Zimo had already expected that to happen. He had already turned around and channeled his essence spirit to conjure another essence spirit secret skill. Buzz. Golden light shone on Su Zimo's glabella as his spirit consciousness condensed. A golden swastika symbol descended rapidly with a sacred aura. It was the Rulidermic seal. The ancient golden character exuded a vast and terrifying might, and shattered third boss's essence spirit secret skill with a crushing force. That was a secret skill of the Buddhist monasteries. The power of the Rulidermic seal increased exponentially after cultivating the perfection of Nirvana Sutra. Third head's essence spirit secret skill could not defend against it, and dissipated instantly. Third head was shocked, and wanted to turn and escape. However, there was no way his speed could compare to the Rulidermic seal. The golden symbol descended, and imprinted itself on his back. Instantly, the massive spirit consciousness shattered his divine sense, and drowned his essence spirit. Third head did not manage to take a few steps, before he collapsed to the ground with no signs of life. In the blink of an eye, 4 of the 5 mystic immortals were dead. On the city wall, everyone was dumbfounded. All the cultivators knew that a fight between essence spirits was extremely dangerous. However, no one expected that the stage 7 mystic immortals present would die even faster and more directly after using essence spirit secret skills. The battle was not over yet. The essence spirit secret skill released by Heavenfire Hall's stage 7 mystic immortal was a fist-sized white flame. By the time the essence spirit secret skill descended, the other 4 were already dead. Heavenfire Hall's stage 7 mystic immortal reacted extremely quickly. Without even thinking or seeing the final outcome, he turned and fled. Su Zimo's expression was cold as he touched his glabella with his finger. From his divine sense, he pulled out a long whip that flickered with blazing lightning. Pa! Su Zimo brandished the lightning whip and struck the white flame. The flame shattered on the spot as sparks splattered everywhere. Spirit vanquishing whip. Heavenfire Hall's stage 7 mystic immortal managed to escape the range of the lightning whip as he had fled first. He managed to survive by the skin of his teeth. His face was pale, and he did not dare to relax. He rushed towards Dragon Lake City, afraid that Su Zimo would chase after him. He was as flustered as a stray dog. The dozens of stage 6 mystic immortals, standing not far away, also reacted at this moment and dispersed. In the blink of an eye, there was only one person left standing on the battlefield below Dragon Lake City. He looked down at Dragon Lake City with a monstrous aura, and was insufferably arrogant. The battlefield was a mess with corpses everywhere. It was like a Shura hell, and this green-robed cultivator was like the king of this Shura hell. No one dared to offend his dignity. Just this battle alone had caused the deaths of 6 7th rank mysterious immortals. Stage 6 mystic immortals and stage 5 mystic immortals had suffered even more casualties. The wolf army of more than 10,000 was almost completely wiped out. Only a few hundred people survived. Even a battle between the various major factions on Dragon Lake Planet might not result in such a tragic situation. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed that it was done by one person. The young masters of Sky Scorpion Stronghold, Profound Light Sect, and other factions stood on Dragon Lake City with pale faces and lingering fear. Fortunately, they did not take action. Otherwise, they might have also died under the city. This battle brought an enormous impact to everyone present. Many years later, some of the young masters of some powers that had witnessed this battle with their own eyes didn't dare come into conflict with Su Zimo, and they would still feel terror when they heard the name Su Zimo. Even some of the exalted immortals and guards of Dragon Lake City faced this ascender from the lower dimensions for the first time. Many exalted immortals had even raised this ascender to a level that was equal to them. No matter if it was the higher dimensions or the lower dimensions, the strong were respected. When a person possessed sufficient strength, then he could deter everything. I've disappointed everyone. Su Zimo faced the direction of Dragon Lake City and cupped his hands, saying indifferently, "With just these people they are still unable to harm my life." Chapter 1857. How arrogant of you. Commander Lu couldn't restrain himself any longer when he heard this, and he couldn't help but explode into rage as he heavily slapped his palm onto the city wall before leaping down. Actually, he'd already made a move when Su Zimo revealed his extraordinary ability, but due to his identity, it wasn't good for him to make a move directly under the gazes of everyone. Yet now, when he saw that there was no one capable of suppressing Su Zimo beneath Dragon Lake City, Commander Lu didn't hesitate any longer. After all, Dragon Lake Star was extremely vast, and there were many areas that were uninhabited and had complicated environments. If this person was allowed to leave and conceal himself, then with Commander Lu's cultivation, even if he led an army to search, it would be like searching for a needle in a haystack, and he might not be able to find this person. Commander Lu firmly believed that Su Zimo absolutely possessed more than one type of treasure. For example, the numerous formidable abilities that Su Zimo revealed just now caused him to be moved. "Lu Tong, what are you doing?" Yan Fei noticed the figure beside him flickering, and he couldn't help but frown deeply as he shouted out lightly. Lu Tong didn't even turn around as he said coldly, "Yan Fei, don't interfere in this matter, otherwise, our many years of friendship will be severed at this moment." Yan Fei hesitated for a moment and stood on the city wall without moving. Even though he rather admired Su Zimo, they didn't have any friendship after all. If he were to become enemies with Lu Tong because of an outsider, then the losses would truly outweigh the gains. Duan Tianliang, Yu Hao, and the others became nervous once more when a rank 8 mysterious immortal made a move. After all, not only was Lu Tong a rank 8 mysterious immortal, he was also the commander of Dragon Lake City. As an ascender, Su Zimo unleashed a slaughter before Dragon Lake City. Even if he annihilated almost 10,000 members of the Wolf Army and killed members of the various powers, no one would say anything. The native exalted immortals of Dragon Lake City would only turn a blind eye to it. But if he dared make a move against the commander of Dragon Lake City, then the nature of this matter would change. Su Zimo remained calm and composed when he saw Lu Tong leaping down from the city wall, and he first put away the storage pouches of Uncle Jiang, Guardian Shui, and the others that were closest to him. "You're about to die, yet you still have the mind to take the things of others." Lu Tong patted his waist with his palm, and a large pitch-black spear appeared in his palm. It looked very powerful. Bang! Lu Tong came to a spot not far from Su Zimo and slammed his great spear into the ground, creating a crater and causing sand and stones to fly in all directions. He activated the chi of heaven and earth, and a total of 5 runes appeared on the spear. The runes shone brightly, and it was a perfect profound rank magic treasure. "May I ask Commander Lu, what crime have I committed?" Su Zimo asked indifferently with a calm expression. "Humph." Lu Tong sneered and said, "You're still so arrogant and wantonly slaughtering outside Dragon Lake City under the gazes of all of us. It looks to me that you're obviously a member of the Devil Path." Lu Tong did not allow any explanation and directly pinned a hat on him. In fact, The battle had been witnessed by the crowd. Su Zimo had many means, among which there were some powerful secret arts of Buddhism. It was reasonable to say that he was a Buddhist. To say that he was a demonic cultivator was obviously a deliberate attempt to frame him. Hearing this, Su Zimo smiled. "What are you laughing at?" Lu Tong asked with a cold voice. "Commander Lu, the Vicious Wolf Army is one of the 4 great bandits, and they've roamed freely on Dragon Lake Star for many years. Why didn't you make an appearance and annihilate the Vicious Wolf Army? Why didn't you say that the Vicious Wolf Army is a demonic cultivator?" Su Zimo replied with a question. Lu Tong's expression was gloomy, and he was just about to speak. Su Zimo continued. "If it was any other time, you could say that the 4 great bandits roam about everywhere and are difficult to encircle and annihilate. But today, the Vicious Wolf Army launched a large-scale attack, and they're right outside Dragon Lake City. Why did you turn a blind eye to it? As the commander of Dragon Lake City, you didn't suppress the bandits, but instead came over to deal with a 5th-level mysterious immortal like me, a person that annihilates bandits. Isn't this laughable?" On the city wall, many cultivators exclaimed with delight in their hearts. Especially Yu Hao and the others. They'd once witnessed their loved ones and friends successively fall at the hands of the Vicious Wolf Army. And in the end, their families were destroyed, and they were homeless. They could be said to hate the 4 great bandits to the bone. Even though they didn't say it out loud, many cultivators had a great deal of resentment towards the indifference of Dragon Lake City. Su Zimo's words could be considered to have spoken out the thoughts of many cultivators. Su Wan sighed lightly with a worried expression. As far as she was concerned, if Su Zimo lowered his head and submitted to Commander Lu, then perhaps he would have a chance to preserve his life. But now, Su Zimo had actually contradicted Commander Lu like this, and it would probably be difficult for him to escape death today. On the city wall, Lu Tong's face seemed to be covered in a layer of frost, and he didn't speak a single word as he stared fixedly at the nearby Su Zimo with a gaze that emitted dense killing intent. Even the cultivators on Dragon Lake City were able to sense Commander Lu's killing intent. Su Zimo seemed to have still not noticed, and he had a mocking expression as he asked with a smile. "I want to ask Commander Lu if you're the commander of Dragon Lake City or the commander of the Vicious Wolf Army. Little bastard, you're courting death." Lu Tong hollered furiously, and his gaze shone brightly. He strode towards Su Zimo at a shocking speed. Lu Tong's hands trembled, and the gigantic spear seemed to possess a life of its own in his hands. Like a spirit snake, it danced in midair and left behind afterimages. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly and retreated. Immediately after, he released ethereal wings, heaven's feet, earth-traversing golden light and other mystic skills, causing his speed to increase explosively as he sped towards the distance. "Commander Lu, we'll meet again in the future. There's no need to send me off." Su Zimo chuckled, and his figure had already disappeared into the night. Trying to escape? Lu Tong sneered in his heart and channeled his essence spirit. Heaven and earth essence chi coiled around his body, and his speed increased explosively as well. He sprinted wildly and chased after Su Zimo with his spear raised. The 2 of them disappeared from everyone's sight before long, one after the other. Su Zimo did not want to fight with Lu Tong at the moment. Firstly, he was only at the 5th level of the Mystic Essence realm, and was 3 cultivation realms away from Lu Tong. Yet now, the amplification of strength brought about by Hexfang was gradually vanishing. Once the 2 of them fought, the outcome would be difficult to determine. Secondly, Lu Tong was the commander of Dragon Lake City after all. Even if he was able to kill Lu Tong, he would surely offend all the powers of Dragon Lake City. At that time, he would be pursued by the numerous guards and native immortals of Dragon Lake City. The situation was too dangerous, and the losses outweighed the gains. Even though Su Zimo had started a slaughter, he didn't lose his reason, and still maintained a clear mind. Dragon Lake City. Many cultivators had various expressions, and were extremely emotional when they saw this scene. No one had imagined that this battle would have such an outcome. A commander of Dragon Lake City said, "This kid is still too naive. He's experienced a great battle and consumed an enormous amount of energy. His cultivation is too inferior to Lu Tong. How could he possibly escape? Yan Fei's gaze flickered as he seemed to be lost in thought and kept silent. After a short moment, he suddenly sent a voice transmission to Su Wan, Yu Hao, and the others. All of you leave Dragon Lake City now. Huh. Su Wan and the others were stunned. Yan Fei pondered and said, it's extremely likely that Su Zimo's actions are for the sake of drawing Lu Tong away. The hearts of Su Wan and the others went cold. Yan Fei reminded, of course, I don't know if he has this layer of intention, but if Lu Tong returns empty-handed, he'll probably look for trouble with all of you. Su Wan and the others were all intelligent people and reacted quickly, and they hurriedly thanked Yan Fei before leaving hastily. 2K Reading Network. Chapter 1858. Su Zimo sprinted the entire way. Lu Tong chased after him relentlessly. Before long, the two of them were already far away from Dragon Lake City. Initially, Lu Tong thought that Su Zimo's stamina, essence chi and essence spirit had definitely reached their limits after a huge battle. However, his essence chi and spirit were all at their peak. As long as he kept an eye on Su Zimo, he would be able to capture the latter alive without bloodshed once Su Zimo's stamina was exhausted. At that time, he would have countless methods to force Su Zimo to reveal those divine powers and secret skills. However, Lu Tong chased for close to an entire night. Dawn had already appeared on the distant horizon, and the green figure before him was still sprinting in his line of sight. As a level 8 mystic immortal, he was already feeling fatigued, and his blood chi was weak after running for such a long time. He had to consume several elixirs along the way to maintain his condition. However, that person's speed did not show any signs of weakening after an entire night. Just what sort of physique does that person have? Lu Tong cursed internally. If this continued, he would collapse from exhaustion, let alone capture that person alive. It was unusual for a level 5 mystic immortal to be able to match him in terms of movement technique speed. What was even stranger was that this person's stamina seemed to be endless with no end in sight. In fact, Lu Tong even felt a sense of despair. How would he know that Qinglian's recovery speed was so shocking that even the Dragon Phoenix true body back then could not compare to it? After Qinglian's true body grew to grade 9, her recovery speed was even more terrifying. Dawn broke. Lu Tong could not drag this on any longer. He took a deep breath of air with a resolute expression and decided to use a secret skill to increase his speed. This secret skill came from the Fiend Sects and was obtained by accident after he killed a Fiend Sect cultivator. All these years, he had never used it in front of anyone. That was because once he released this secret skill, it would have a huge impact on his body and consume a large amount of blood chi essence. He might need hundreds of years to recover. However, if he could suppress Su Zimo, he would not hesitate even if he had to consume his blood chi. Fiend Movement Art. Lu Tong channeled his essence spirit and conjured hand seals with both hands. Suddenly his aura changed. 2 streams of pitch-black demon chi rapidly emerged from his body, as if they were taking away a large amount of his chi and blood essence. These 2 streams of demonic chi revolved around his feet. Lu Tong's feet were injected with an extremely tyrannical and violent force, and his entire body became much lighter. His speed skyrocketed, leaving behind a series of afterimages in the air as he sped forward. The distance between Lu Tong and Su Zimo was rapidly shrinking. Not long after, the distance between the two of them was only a few dozen feet. Lu Tong's spirit shook and his heart was overjoyed. He once again took out the perfect profound rank great spear from his storage pouch. He was ready to close in on him and directly attack. Oh! Sensing the commotion behind him, Su Zimo glanced sideways and glanced over from the corner of his eye. Hee. When he saw the sweaty and menacing Lu Tong, Su Zimo chuckled and shook his head. Compared to Lu Tong, the current Su Zimo was much calmer. His face was rosy, and he did not sweat at all. His breathing was steady as he strolled leisurely. Commander Lu, thank you for escorting me all the way here. Please stay. Su Zimo said and channeled his essence spirit. channeling his innate divine powers. With a whoosh, 2 giant wings grew out from his back. They were golden all over, and each feather was flowing with a mysterious divine light. This was the innate divine power inherited from the golden-winged roc, extreme speed. Initially, Su Zimo did not use it. On the one hand, he wanted to lure Lu Tong away. On the other hand, he wanted to see how long Lu Tong could chase after him. Now that Lu Tong had released his secret skill, he no longer hesitated. The speed of the golden-winged roc was considered top-notch, even in the 3,000 worlds of the upper realm. There were almost no living beings that could compare to it. Swoosh! Flapping his golden wings, Su Zimo's figure transformed into a streak of light and shot out. In the blink of an eye, the distance between the two of them widened once more. What? Lu Tong's eyes widened, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. This was a huge blow to him. He chased for an entire night, and released a fiend-sex secret skill that consumed his essence chi. Just as he was about to catch up to Su Zimo released a divine power that was even faster than him. Not only did the distance between the two of them not shorten, it widened rapidly instead. Su Zimo possessed the wings of the golden-winged roc and could soar in midair. He could ignore the obstacles such as rocks and shrubs on the ground, and was even faster. However, Lu Tong was sprinting on the ground. In less than half an instance's time, Su Zimo had completely vanished from Lu Tong's line of sight without a trace. Lu Tong had no choice but to stop in his tracks. His face was livid as he panted heavily. His eyes were spitting fire, and he was furious to the point his head was about to explode. He chased for an entire night, but in the end, he didn't even touch the corner of Su Zimo's clothes. Lu Tong ground his teeth and clenched his fists tightly. He stood on the spot, and stood blankly for a long time before suppressing the rage in his heart and turning around to head towards Dragon Lake Star. He sprinted with all his might and chased for an entire night. But this time, he took an entire 2 days to return to Dragon Lake City. Isn't that Commander Lu? The guards at the city gate saw a travel-worn cultivator walking over from afar. His face was covered in dust, and he looked to be in a slightly sorry state. If it wasn't for the token on his waist, many of the guards wouldn't dare to recognize him. Didn't Commander Lu go to chase that Su Zimo? Why did you return on your own? One of them was slightly puzzled and asked. Another guard said, Is there even a need to ask? He's surely killed on the spot. Could it be that he brought a corpse back? Before long, Lu Tong arrived at the city gate of Dragon Lake City. Commander Lu, you've returned. A guard hurriedly greeted him with a smile on his face. Another guard bowed and said loudly with a face full of smiles, Congratulations, Commander Lu, for annihilating that rascal Su Zimo and returning victorious. Lu Tong's footsteps stopped. He couldn't help but recall the scene from 2 days ago, and his face instantly went gloomy as a strand of rage surged into his heart, and he directly slapped the guard on the face with a flip of his hand. Crack! The sound of bones cracking resounded out. This guard was a 6th-level mysterious immortal as well, yet his face was shattered by Lu Tong's slap, and he rolled out over 30 m before fainting on the spot. Please forgive me, Commander Lu. The other guards at the city gate were terrified to the point their entire bodies trembled, and they knelt on the ground successively and didn't dare raise their heads. Lu Tong lightly gritted his teeth and asked, Where are those people that followed by Su Zimo's side? Commander Lu, those people have already left the city 2 days ago, and their whereabouts are unknown. A city guard replied while trembling with fear. The rage in Lu Tong's heart grew even stronger, yet he had nowhere to vent it. At this moment, he came to an understanding that Su Zimo wanted to draw him away. That person was clearly toying with him. Fuck off. Lu Tong raised his leg and kicked the few city guards before him flying, and then he returned to his estate furiously. This time, not to mention returning without accomplishing anything, he'd even lost a great deal of vital energy and blood essence. He had to recuperate for a period of time before he could completely recover to his previous state. End of this chapter. Chapter 1859. Su Zimo did not linger anywhere else and returned to the wilderness on his own. He had reaped great rewards from this trip to Dragon Lake City. Prior to this, he had exchanged all the immortal herbs in his storage bag and obtained close to 500,000 essence condensation elixirs. During the battle at Dragon Lake City, he obtained the storage bags of a few more Grade 7 Mystic Immortals. Along the way, he had nothing to do, so he had already sorted out the rewards he had obtained this time. There were close to 10 million essence condensation elixirs in those storage bags. There were even more of the 2 types of immortal herbs. There were a total of 64 essence spirit stones. Coupled with the 13 essence spirit stones he obtained from the Zhuanghe army previously, he had a total of 77 essence spirit stones. Of course, there were also some Dharma treasures and cultivation techniques in those storage bags. However, those Dharma treasures could not catch Su Zimo's attention. Su Zimo roughly browsed through some of the cultivation techniques and secret skills, but none of them were worth cultivating. That was normal. If those cultivators truly possessed any powerful cultivation techniques or secret skills, they would not have lost so miserably. Unfortunately, Su Zimo did not manage to collect the storage bags of the 10,000-strong army of the Wolf Army. That was a waste. Of course, his greatest gains from this battle were 3 items. The first was a spirit treasure fragment, the second was a pitch-black broken blade, and the third was the Sala leaf. Su Zimo entered seclusion cultivation the moment he returned to the wilderness. He first placed the spirit treasure fragment into the bronze square tripod and observed it quietly. True enough, a terrifying power burst forth from within the bronze square tripod and smelted the spirit treasure fragment, absorbing the essence within. However, the bronze square tripod did not change much after smelting the spirit treasure fragment. However, a crack seemed to have been repaired on one of the shattered tripod walls. The cracks on the tripod walls were densely packed, and Su Zimo could not detect them. Without hesitation, he tossed the pitch-black broken blade into the bronze square tripod once more. Before long, the bronze square tripod smelted the pitch-black broken blade once more. This time round, Su Zimo stared intently at the shattered tripod walls. Indeed, on the wall of the cauldron, a crack gradually healed. Of course, there were too many cracks on the cauldron wall, and only 2 of them were repaired. It could be said that it was insignificant. The bronze square cauldron didn't change much either. But this at least confirmed Su Zimo's speculation. If he wanted to repair this bronze square cauldron, he would have to devour at least a spirit channeling magic treasure. As long as he had this direction, the bronze square cauldron would be restored to its original state one day. Of course, it would be best if he could devour a weapon of a higher grade than a spirit channeling magic treasure. For example, during his ascension, he was intercepted by the Cloud Underworld King and fell into a black hole in the starry sky. By chance, the bronze square cauldron had once devoured an immortal king weapon. It was also because of this weapon that one of the walls of the bronze square cauldron was repaired. Only then was he able to learn the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, stabilize his primordial spirit, and escape from the black hole in space. However, this kind of opportunity could only be encountered and not sought. With his current cultivation, not to mention an immortal king weapon, he wouldn't even be able to come into contact with a complete psychic magic treasure. Su Zimo was increasingly curious about the bronze square cauldron. He wanted to see what sort of mysteries the bronze square cauldron would reveal the moment it was restored to its original state. During this period of time, he had yet to establish a connection with Wu Dao's true body. He did not know if it was because his primordial spirit's cultivation was insufficient, or if there were other reasons. However, Su Zimo was not worried. In Tianhuang mainland, there was no one who could threaten Wu Dao's true body. Next was the Sualua leaf. The Sualua leaf had an extraordinary meaning to Su Zimo. His true body could be said to be a creation Qinglian. If he could refine the Sualua leaf, there would be an obvious increase in the growth of the creation Qinglian. More importantly, the Sualuo tree was one of the 3 sacred trees of the Buddhist monasteries. Legend has it that the Buddha once transcended nirvana under the Sualuo tree. If he could refine the leaf, he would definitely have many brand new insights towards cultivating the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. A month later, Su Zimo was in seclusion when his heart skipped a beat. He floated up and walked out of his cave abode. Master! The silver giant was guarding not far away. When it saw Su Zimo coming out of seclusion, it hurried forward. Someone's here, Su Zimo said softly. The silver giant said with a ferocious gaze. Don't worry, master. I'll go take a look, and not let anyone disturb your cultivation. There's no need for that. Su Zimo waved it off. There aren't many people who know about this place. Duan Tianliang and the others should have returned. Woof woof woof. Before long, he heard De Huang's cheerful barks. A large group of people walked over from afar. Duan Tianliang rode on Ying Zhao's back and walked at the front with De Huang. Duan Tianliang was beaming as he bragged to everyone behind him. Beside Duan Tianliang and De Huang were three familiar faces: Yu Hao, Shen Fei, and Gu Wenjun. Greetings, Brother Su. When Yu Hao saw Su Zimo, he was overjoyed and hurried forward. Shen Fei and Gu Wenjun also came over to greet him. Behind the three of them were tens of thousands of cultivators. Most of them were at LV1, LV2 or LV3 Mystic Essence Realm. Only about 1,000 of them were wearing armor, and were at LV4 or LV5 Mystic Essence Realm. They seemed to be quite strong. These cultivators looked at Su Zimo with curiosity, surprise and awe. They were all from Miang Camp. During this period of time, Yu Hao and the others had already told everyone about the battle at 100,000 Mountains and Dragon Lake City. For such a great battle, even if there were no embellishments, the original description was already soul-stirring, not to mention Duan Tianliang, who was so eloquent that he danced with joy when talking about it. Everyone from Miang Camp had been curious about Su Zimo for a long time. In their hearts, an expert who was able to annihilate 5,000 soldiers from the Blood Sun Valley and burn 10,000 soldiers from the Vicious Wolf Army must have a stalwart and heroic figure. Perhaps he might even be a monster with 3 heads and 6 arms. But now, they saw that the legendary ruthless person was actually this gentle and handsome scholar in front of them. We came uninvited. Please forgive us, Brother Su. Yu Hao said. It's okay. Su Zimo smiled and looked at the people behind Yu Hao. He asked, This is? Gu Wenjun smiled and said, Brother Su, these are the cultivators of Miang Camp. We 3 siblings brought them to seek refuge with you. Please take us in and don't reject us. Yu Hao said, Miang Camp is worried that we will be targeted by the Wolf Army and Zuyanggu. So we have to move every once in a while. After such a big thing happened this time, we were about to leave, so we thought that we might as well seek refuge with Brother Su. Boss Su. Shen Fei followed Duan Tianliang and changed the way he addressed Su Zimo. From now on, you will be our leader. That's all for today. Everyone go to bed early. Thank you for the tip, Brother Haileng. End of chapter. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.